FanDuel TV's Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup is presented by Windstar Farm and by Keeneland.
Flightline, you smell like a winner. Even horses have to take baths, the great ones. Then there is Life is Good. Can he take the field gate to wire? In the Longines Breeders' Cup Classic, I'm sure it's better than 6-1 odds. And on this show, we'll go out to Windstar Farm to see one of the greatest champions in the history of the Breeders' Cup. What do you get when you cross a rooster with a small dog? Cock-a-poodle-doo! It is a mild morning in Lexington, Kentucky, here at Keeneland Racecourse, home of the Breeders' Cup. And we are just days away from 2 championship days of racing. Welcome to Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup. We're going to get a look at some of the European entrants who have finally cleared quarantine. And we're going to talk about what happened yesterday at the post position draw. It's still a frenetic pace leading up to the Breeders' Cup as so much activity is taking place on the backside and here on the track. Joining me on our set, just off the winner's circle, Christina Blacker and Simon Bray. About that post position draw yesterday, Christina, you said going into the Longines Breeders' Cup Classic, it would be best for Flightline if he was outside of Life is Good. That ended up happening.
Yes, he is drawn outside of Life is Good. Flightline draws post position number 4. Flightline draws, or Life is Good rather, draws post position number 2. Something that definitely helps as far as the pace. Life is Good is committed to be out there on the front end, and Flavien Prat now has the opportunity to look to his left, see how fast they're going to go, take a good hold of Flightline. You have that nice long run down the stretch when they begin the 1.25 mile journey. He should be able to put Flightline in whatever position he feels comfortable.
I agree with that. I think from a viewer and fan perspective, you couldn't have got a better setup with the post positions. Look, Life is Good, ideally to the inside of Flightline. We've all agreed with that. But I think if you're drawn outside, it wouldn't have been a big deal. But I think now going in, we don't have any excuses. It's an ideal setup. There's a horse between both of them. We're set up for a great match here. It
was compelling television yesterday, watching all 14 championship races drawn at Rupp Arena. We had John Calipari there, coach of the UK men's basketball team. And one of the races that also drew a lot of attention was the Longines Breeders' Cup Distaff because of 2 stablemates. That would be Malathot and Nest out of the Todd Pletcher barn. As far as draws in here, I would say one of the 2 Steve Asmussen entrants, kind of interesting. Society drew the far outside, who many expect to take the early initiative.
Yeah, she's a quickly improving filly, Society, and she's very fast. She's going to have to clear these horses from the outside, but I don't think that'll be much of a problem for her. Malathot, I think, creates her own luck, but she is one of those, Simon, that takes a little while to get going. I think if they could have chosen, they probably would not have wanted the rail. But hopefully she's able to negotiate a good trip.
Yeah, I don't think, in horse race, I don't think anyone puts their hand up and says they love the inside post unless you're a blazing sprinter. But she has proven she can win from there. She started 4 times from post 1. She's won 3 out of those 4 starts and only got beaten ahead in the other one.
Okay, that's a couple of highlights from the post position draw yesterday. Simon, as far as what we have ahead today on the show, getting our first look at the Europeans out on the track. So what are they trying to accomplish when they clear quarantine initially?
Just trying to get some light exercise, I would assume, for most of them. Just get around there, get a feel for the track, a look for the track. All the heavy work is done. They've had a big ship over here, so once they clear quarantine, we'll get to see them out on the track, and I'm looking forward to that.
We have full team coverage for you here this morning on Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup. A look at our crew interspersed all around the racetrack. Andy Biancone aboard Cinch out on the track. Gabby Gaudet is here, Joaquin Jaime, and reunited, and it feels so good. Talking about Rishi Prasad and Scott Hazelton.
Scott wouldn't work unless Rishi came back.
I agree.
Apparently that's our cue. Off we go here in the training track, Rishi, and looking forward to this morning. And we're going to see, as they mentioned, the Euros coming out. We're going to see the Platinum Queen coming out here any minute, expected to come out onto the track at 7 a.m.
Yeah, all the reports that I've had from people in the quarantine barn over the first couple of days has been that she's been getting pretty fresh. So she needs to get out. She needs to let off a little bit of steam. Machine Orr, who has ridden her before, is here specifically to use his skills in knowing the filly quite well in the training in the mornings to keep her settled, because there is a little danger that she might get a little bit edgy. But hopefully once she gets out and gets a little bit of fresh air, that she'll settle into her routine.
Yeah, it's fresh out today. It's a gorgeous morning out here in this early November morning, I should say, here in Lexington, Kentucky. We're at the training track. We ain't going anywhere. And a man that has moved very little from the Flightline camp is Joaquin Jaime.
Yeah, Scott and Rishi, good morning to you guys. If you're looking to see Flightline train here at Keeneland Racecourse, well, you're going to have to get here pretty early when the racetrack opens at 6 a.m. because that's when Flightline hit the track earlier today. For those that have missed it, and just a recap of what Flightline has done the past couple of days, he had his final workout for the Breeders' Cup Classic on Saturday. He worked 5 furlongs. The following day on Sunday, it was his chill day, as John Sadler called it. It's just his off day. He went back to the track on Monday, had about a mile jog just over the off racetrack on Monday morning, and then he went back to his daily gallop routine today. Terry Finley from West Point Thoroughbreds told me early this morning, give or take, he galloped about a mile and 3/8 on the main track for Flightline. They brought him back to the barn. He was getting a bath in front of numerous media members about 6:45, and then they shut the door right behind me. Actually, Harley, you're ruining the shot. Big Harley right there is covering up the sliding door where Flightline is stabled. So they shut the door behind me, and they have closed up shop for the morning. So Flightline, he is done for the day. We're going to continue to make our rounds to some other barns out here on Rice Road. In the meantime, we send you out to Gabby Gaudet. Gabby, good morning.
Joaquin, it's always a good start to the day when Harley can make a cameo in the background. Thank you for that. Of course, there's a lot going on here at Keeneland Racecourse with all the happenings in preparation for the Breeders' Cup. But a little bit later today, I'm really looking forward to going out to WinStar. Well, we will check in with all the happenings going on at WinStar, but most importantly, check in with Tisnow. Of course, back in 2001, in October, he won the Breeders' Cup Classic just 6 weeks after everything changed in America when 9/11 happened. He was a horse that won when America needed him the most. Looking forward to that and going to WinStar a little bit later today as we now check in with Andy Biancone.
Good morning, Gabby. The track is looking really good this morning. Track conditions are much better than they were yesterday, and it's just all feeling so real after the post position draw yesterday. I mean, counting down the days to the first day of Breeders' Cup, this is really the most crucial time. I mean, everybody has had their final breezes. We're basically just bubble wrapping these horses, making sure they're okay getting to the race. I'm really excited to get the Euros out here today. I think the turf will be open at 9:30 for them to have a little bit of a gallop, which will be really nice to see. And Cinch and I will be helping our buddy Slammed, the filly and mare sprint contender who won the TCA. We'll be helping her out at 8:30. So plenty going on here. But for now, let's check in with Scott and Rishi.
Yeah, and right now we've got a couple of these Euros as expected coming out here and out here on the training track. The Platinum Queen just buzzed by us, leading another one of the Euros, and the Platinum Queen, one of the leading contenders as far as the expectations coming in to this year's event and looking to give the Euros their first win in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Sprint.
And on raw ability, she has that chance. But the one question for me, Scott, is the fact that she's got an awkward draw. She's definitely got the ability, she's got the speed, and I know Euro speed is always a little bit different to US speed, but she's a very quick filly. The only concern for me is that she tends to lean left when she comes under pressure. She's drawn in stall 12, so she's going to have to do a little bit of work to get to the rail. She will need the rail. And of course, the other question about Platinum Queen is that she's never been around a bend before in an entire career. So she'll have those two questions to answer come Friday.
But how does she get that rail is the question as we see her coming past us here for a second time around this training track. I mean, the speed that these other young horses possess, it seems almost an impossible task. If she's going to show that speed, she might have to gather a bit and tuck down to the inside and work out a trip, but then you're taking away one of her main weapons if in fact she's quick enough to outrun these horses.
The draw yesterday when it came out immediately struck a disconcerting chord to me because it meant exactly what you said. She was going to have to either do a lot of work early on to get to that rail, because I think that rail is crucial for her. Her best performances have come when she's been stuck against a rail. If you look back at her run at Goodwood, where she was mightily impressive, She was against the rail all the way when she won the Abbey against the older horses. As a 2-year-old, she also had the rail to run against in the closing stages, and that really helped her. Previously, her 2 runs before that, when she was under pressure late on in the race, she lugged away to the left, and it cost her both times. Once to Highfield Princess, who's obviously a very good horse, and the other time against another 2-year-old as well. So those are the real big issues for me, and the draw has really made her drift in my mind as a realistic win candidate, because she's going to have to do things now that she hasn't done before against some of the very fastest contemporaries.
And also, it's more of a level playing field this go around than perhaps even last time. And I know that she beat older horses, but it's a massive weight break that these 2-year-olds get when they're facing older horses. It's something that we don't see here in the United States. We don't see 2-year-olds tackle older horses at any point during the season. We've seen Wesley Ward send horses over there like Acapulco, who ran a huge race. I think it was in the Nunthrop a few years back, but she was ultimately run down late. So, you know, she's carrying 119, that the Colts are carrying 122. She doesn't get that huge weight break versus the older horses. And I think that if you look back at that last race in France, that's probably what won her the race. Not that, and also getting the rail, as you mentioned.
Yeah, absolutely. And you rightly point out the weight difference that she's had against the older horses in the Nunthorpe and in the Abbey. You know, she's getting 20 pounds from those horses. So that means that she's got that speed plus that weight advantage. It's hard to claw back. I think the other thing for her as well is quite simply the fact that she hasn't had horses as fast from the gates to face as she will have on Friday. That's going to be one of the major issues for me. She's a horse that likes to get away quick and she gets into her stride, but obviously if you're going to do that from stall 12 against horses that are probably rated a little bit easier and a bit kinder in Europe, then you've got a shot. Whereas here, I know, you know, there's so much speed from the gate that she's going to have a real burn-up in the early part of the race, which will again be something that she's not faced before.
She's gone around a couple of times. I believe they've headed off the wrong way to head off the track. I believe that's them just over to our right going the wrong way, and that's the case right now. And quickly, before we go back to the set, what's been the difference for this filly? Because in Royal Ascot, she was completely dismissed. She didn't run well at all. Dramatized was the winner that day. We'll see Dramatized. Better draw Ryan Moore in this race. Keep that in mind. But what has been the difference for this young filly?
It's very hard to put something specific on the reason for why she's become so good. She won first time up. That was fine. It was a small race at Ripon. And then she went to Royal Ascot, as you said. She was beaten miles. She's beaten way behind Dramatized. And then suddenly, when she went to Goodwood, something clicked that day, and she came out of the gates like lightning, and then she had the rail to run against, and she got into a beautiful rhythm, and she just seemed to, for whatever reason on that particular occasion, enjoy her performance so much. And she won in such style that Connections thought, right, well, she's very fast. We're going to have a go at something a little bit harder. We'll send her to the Nunthorpe at York. And again, she showed a similar sort of speed, similar sort of rhythm and tempo from the gates. But then when she came under pressure against better horses, she didn't have that rail to run against. Away she goes to her left, and she gets pegged back by Highfield Princess. Don't forget, I mean, in fairness, she beat the rest of them quite nicely. But it's not going to be an easy task for her. And as I said, the fact she's run straight as well, all her races, I think combination of factors, probably the reason why she's become so good in recent times. But also, don't forget, she's 2 and she's improving. She's getting a bit stronger. If you look at her here this morning, just watching her going around, she's very enthusiastic. And channeling that enthusiasm in the right direction has been one of the keys to her success.
Things are going to ramp up over the course of the morning here at the training track. You calling for rain, by the way? What's with the rain jacket?
I love a little bit of protection from all weathers.
Just ready to go.
Yeah. You've got to be ready for everything.
He stays ready.
And we appreciate that. Andy Biancone is ready. Some major horses coming out onto the track.
Todd, this is the best area to stand because we really get the best of the best walking in front of us and standing next to us. Here we have trainer John Sadler. John, what are your impressions of Flightline this morning? I know he went back to the track. How was he?
Yeah, he was really good this morning. He had a nice gallop this morning at 6 o'clock and traveled very well. It's the first day when the other horses moved out because they got to move the sale horses in, so no traffic today, just for the Breeders' Cup horses. So really ideal conditions. The weather's nice. Looks like it's good going forward. His schedule is probably to gallop at 6 again tomorrow, and then he'll school in the paddock on Wednesday and Thursday. I put a little emphasis on the paddock, so, you know, if anybody, the photogs want their shots, Wednesday and Thursday in the paddock.
In terms of the rest of your string, how are you feeling? How is everybody else doing as the big days approach?
Very good. Edgeway went out second. She jogged around. It was her jog day. I was glad I moved her up to Sunday. Got a nice work in before the wet track of yesterday. So she came out of that great. Looks bouncy. She'll school today along with this horse that's galloping now, Haywood's Beach. And they're both doing fine. You know, we're ready to go. We've got the draw, and let's see what happens.
Excellent. And in terms of the track, have you noticed any of your horses taking a certain affinity for it?
Well, you can't really say with surfaces till you run over it. You can see how they're going over it. All of mine are going fine over it. This is not a particularly challenging surface. It's pretty tight. I think a lot of it had to do with the weather. So we'll see what the conditions are later in the week, but so far so good.
Thank you so much, John. We're looking forward to the rest of the week. It's all becoming really real. Back to you, Todd.
And watching Flightline down there, it looks like he's just like, let's just do this. Let's get to Saturday now.
Well, in essence, he's had 2 easy days, right? He worked, then he stayed in the barn, and then he just jogged yesterday, which in and of itself, they're not going to get a whole lot out of it. That's just to keep them, you know, sound and fresh. And the result of today is very aggressive, but the rider did a great job there. You notice he was a little reluctant to switch leads. That's not a negative. That's just because he's going so slow. You have to let their head out to switch leads, and it's a situation that a rider finds himself in, Christy. You don't want to wrestle with them to switch their leads. You don't want to let them out too much in case they take off with you. But look at him here.
He's tough, but this is what you want to see.
Yes.
After 2 quiet days. This is exactly what John Sadler wants to see. You want to see him jump on the bridle there, get on the muscle, and really pull against Juan Leyva. And Juan did a beautiful job. You could just also watch his positioning. Just look at his heels so far forward. Look at his weight back in his seat, leaning back as far as he can, just to kind of anchor against that power. And yeah, the big thing about lead changes when you're on a horse, they have to be balanced when they change. And when they're going a little bit faster, it's easier for them to go ahead and switch and throw their weight to the other side. So as it was a little bit more of an ordeal to change leads today, it's because Juan was trying to hold him the whole time. If you don't want to let him go too fast to switch and then risk him getting away from you and starting to run off and then having to try to throttle him back down, you want to just keep a good hold and keep control the whole time in this gallop, and that's exactly what he did.
Remarkable job there. You could see there for about 10-15 seconds of that video, it was a little give and take. I mean, he was just letting him out a little bit, and I mean, that is hard work. I don't think people really understand. You know, most of us can come to work, we don't feel too good, we can power through it, but if you're not 100% to come into a morning like this, I mean, as an exercise rider, it could go the wrong way. So
there's a finesse to it. It's not just about
brute
power.
strength.
You're not going to be stronger than Flightline.
So Flavien Prat, obviously we got Juan Leyva doing a majority of the work in the mornings. How do you feel about Flavien Prat not having to be a part of that equation, just in the afternoon in most cases?
I think from a trainer standpoint, I think it's perfect. I think, I guarantee you, and this is no disrespect to any joggers, about 90% of them, if they came out and tried to gallop him this morning, he'd be gone. It's just a different job, right? I mean, jockeys can gallop horses. Exercise riders probably can't ride in the afternoon, so everybody has their role.
And a horse like this, I mean, he knows the routine as well. I think if you put Flavien aboard in the morning, he might even get a little more fresh. He's smart enough to know the difference between Juan Leyva, who's been aboard him every morning, and Flavien Prat, who's been aboard him in the afternoon. Some trainers won't use jockeys to breeze horses at all just because they do tend to go a little bit faster.
Flightline comes in with more than an unblemished record. He hasn't been tested at all, truly. You can look at the Run Happy Met Mile, talk about the slow start. In the end, he won easy anyway, and it wasn't any easier than what he did in the TVG Pacific Classic, a 19¼ length win. Tasked with trying to beat Flightline is this horse, Olympiad, out on the track right now here at Keeneland for trainer Bill Mott.
Olympiad looks good out there in his gallop. A little bit easier to handle, as you can see, versus a Flightline. A little bit kinder in the mornings. And to me, Simon, if you look through his form, I mean, he looks like he could be sitting on another peak effort. I love the effort in the Jockey Club Gold Cup and the fact that he's had a little bit of time to come back and hopefully come with his A game, A+ game against Flightline this weekend.
Great horse, been extremely well managed, in my opinion, because if you look through some of the races and the horses that he's beaten, they probably wouldn't be, you know, 15-1 in here. They'd be higher, I think. And the one time he did get to face this crew, it was in the Whitney, and he was beaten nearly 10 lengths behind Life is Good, Happy Saver, and Hot Rod Charlie. So, look, he's a quality horse, but as far as, you know, form and past performances, he's clearly got some ground to make up. But that's why you never shy away from one horse.
Olympiad, son of Speightstown, out of the Medaglia d'Oro mare, Tokyo time, bred by Emery Hamilton here in Kentucky. Society in the distaff, we talked about her outside draw, and if you're handicapping people and the reactions we've had in interviews on the backside and then yesterday at the post position draw, I just read Steve Asmussen as being very confident about all his chances coming into the 2 days here. And so while we're talking about the distaff being about the two Pletchers, maybe it's about the two Asmussens, one of them being Society.
Yeah, one of them being Society, the other being Clairiere. Society has always been pretty tough. You can see the cotton in her ears, as that's something that Steve Asmussen uses with a lot of his big horses, just to try to keep them calm, kind of muffle out the sounds that they're hearing in and around them, whether that be other horses on the track or just the photographers out there this time of year. She's one that takes a good hold and does kind of fight the rider. She wants to go faster. She wants to be more forward. But that is the type of body language you want to see from a speedster, because this is typical of her.
Steve Asmussen, I mean, he's so good. He does a great job. Between these two fillies, they've won 11 races from 21 starts. I mean, it's remarkable. And they can get beaten 17 lengths, and then yet they come back and pick up their form where they left off before the bad defeat. I'm with Todd. I think some of the Asmussen horses are sitting on big races here. I think particularly Clairiere, and particularly the horses coming in off a layoff. I think there's been a market design, a market way of getting here with a couple of the runners by giving them extended breaks, and I think that's the case certainly with Clairiere.
I took a look at the Thoroughgraph numbers for the distaff last night, and Society paired up negative zeros in her last two starts. Generally, when you have a horse that pairs up numbers like that, they should run through it. They should run faster the next time. She looks like, on paper, she's sitting on a career best.
And as we've seen with the Asmussen style training, it's all about restraint. You don't want to see a fast time when it's a timed workout. You're seeing much of that here as she gets some exercise out on the track. Let's move our attention to Future Stars Friday and the Juvenile Filly Turf. And out on the racetrack, Comanche
Country for
yeah,
Phil D'Amato, yeah. And this was one of the ones that I thought didn't benefit from the post position draw yesterday. I think this is a filly for for owner Billy Karch and his partnership, Phil D'Amato, undefeated in 3 starts. She's, I think, been handled and progressed perfectly here stateside, maiden listed race and in a Group 3. But unfortunately, she drew the inside post. And you look at her running style and you think, well, it shouldn't be affected. But big field here, you know, narrow track. I think that could be a big problem for her, unfortunately.
She's a nice import. They've done such a nice job, the team at Little Red Feather and Phil D'Amato's barn, with finding these horses from Europe that really do thrive when they come to America, that really do improve when they come to America. And she hasn't done anything wrong. She's 3 for 3 since coming stateside. A nice, kind gallop for her out there. Just what you want to see coming into the race. She will be dropping back from off the pace, and she's another one that's paired up the same numbers in her last 2 starts. She should be sitting on an improved effort, but she does need to step up, I think, against the horses like Delight, against horses like Free Look, against Meditate, against Midnight Mile. I think she needs to get a little faster to compete with some of these.
Well, Meditate beat her one time they faced each other in Europe. You know, that's an Aidan O'Brien runner, so beat her 7 lengths.
Comanche Country, daughter of Highland Reel, out of the Chamerdal mare. Honey Hunter was bred by Honey Hunter Syndicate in her native Ireland, preparing for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Filly Turf, one of 5 championship races on Future Stars Friday here at Keeneland. And some of the more wide open races will be these races on the grass for the 2-year-olds. Kind of animated there was the rider aboard Comanche Country, with others coming through the way.
Pretty little filly. Moves good, jogs out, looks very sound.
3 for 3 out in California. But as you see with the young horses, they can move forward race to race, or they can also regress. It's that time where form can go either direction. But Comanche Country, as Christina pointed out, has been fantastic since coming to the United States. And Berto Rispoli has been aboard for all 3. And then look at her strut out there.
Got the Zenyatta slap, high march.
All right, let's return once again to Andy Bianco.
Todd, trainer Bill Ma is here, Olympiad in hand. Bill, what are your thoughts on Olympiad this morning?
We're happy with him. You know, he's shipped well, and I'm happy with the way he's going around the racetrack. I mean, he seems to be, you know, he's settled in well enough, and looking forward to a big day on Saturday.
Did he gallop today or jog?
No, he galloped. Had a good gallop around here. He galloped 1.25 miles and looked like he got over the track fine.
And your name is Neil, correct? Neil. Awesome. How did Olympiad feel to you?
Felt perfect, just like he always does.
How long have you been galloping him?
I'm not his regular exercise rider. I'm his breeze rider most of the time, but everything seems the same.
Well, thank you so much, Team Mott. Best of luck, and we'll see you later.
Yeah, that's Neil Pazanski. He was a former very good jockey up in Canada, and he's been now working for Bill for quite some time as an assistant. So he does great work, and he's usually the main guy that travels and exercises the horses.
And advantage with Bill Mott always being on horseback, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, he's done that his whole career. Yeah.
Gabby?
Todd, well, you won't believe what we're about to do. I'm standing right by a tractor. The lights are on. We're going to harrow the track in just a minute, and I am going to ride along in the tractor. This is called a companion seat. I'm going to be sitting in the companion seat. I'm going to get nice and cozy here with James as well. And, yeah, stand by. I'll take you for a ride on my big green tractor.
Oh, someone's a country music fan, Gabby Gaudet. Well played. When we come back, Flightline's not playing. Flightline's ready for another big performance. We'll check in on him after he just was out on the track earlier today. That's coming up on Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup, brought to you by WinStar Farm and Keeneland Racecourse.
On FanDuel Casino, we make it easy to turn your site credit into real money. Unlike other casinos who make you wager your site credit over and over before you can withdraw it, we play fair. Just play through it once and you keep what you win. Turning all your site credit into real cash is that simple. Plus, you'll get paid your way, quickly and securely. Come see why FanDuel Casino promotions give you so much more than other online casinos. Join FanDuel Casino and play it again with up to $1,000 back if you're down on your first day.
Hey, big man. Oh, hey. Dave told me you got some kind of great system for betting that really works.
It's true.
What is it? Is it like home dogs? No. It's bird mascots.
No, I just use FanDuel's responsible gaming tools, like time and spending limits, to manage my play.
That's the system.
Hasn't failed me yet.
Cool. You know what, man? I'm just going to keep this between you and me.
It's not a secret, Bob.
Every bettor has a system. Make FanDuel's responsible gaming tools a key part of yours. It's more fun that way.
It's time to bet the race, and FanDuel Racing has entered the starting gate. Download the FanDuel Racing app, and you're off. It's super easy to use from the start. Make every moment more with tools to help you win on the inside. Watch out for great promos and easy deposits. And here comes fast payouts. It's super easy to use. It's fast payouts. It's super easy. There's no doubt about it. The best place to bet is FanDuel Racing.
New customers bet the Breeders' Cup and get up to $100 back if your horse doesn't win.
FanDuel TV's Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup is presented by WinStar Farm and by Keeneland.
We're back here at Keeneland Racecourse, and yesterday at Rupp Arena, Flightline drew post position number 4 for the Breeders' Cup Classic, and we look at his career. This year, he is a perfect 2 for 2. He won the Met Mile and then followed up with the victory in the TVG Pacific Classic. Overall, he's a perfect 5 for 5, and he's been brilliant in all 5 races. Here's a closer look at the 5-race career of Flightline.
Flightline
a superstar, is dominating the run-happy Malibu, and he's going to turn this into his easiest win yet.
I get a big smile when they compare him with the best of the best. We had great memories in California, Spectacular Bid, and I often compared Flightline's Malibu Stakes to Spectacular Bids, and they're both right there.
They're off in the Med Mile. Flightline did not break all that well, but he will be sent to the front inside of Speaker's Corner, and he didn't get through there, and Speaker's Corner is going to grab the lead. Flightline's going to have to sit just off of him. He's up into second on the inside, and now he's going to be sent through that opening on the rail.
He didn't break very sharp, and then down the backside he got shut off a couple of times, so that was a little nerve-wracking. But once Flavian got him in the clear, then everything was really good.
Oh, what a race horse! Flightline, 4 for 4. He's flawless, and he's freakishly fast. He won the Met Mile by 6 lengths, and he didn't even break well.
And there's the roar from the crowd as the field for the Pacific Classic sent on their way. They all came away to an even beginning.
In the Pacific Classic, he took a little bump at the start, but then Flavian rode him so beautifully. He kind of took him a little wide into the first turn just to keep him clear and to keep him relaxed. My reaction was when they turned down the backside, you could see the way he was tracking that it was just going to be lights out. So he never looked like anything but a winner.
Flavian Prat and Flightline are an embarrassing lead. It must be 15 lengths as they turn for home now. And let's see, Flavian Prat just shakes the reins at Flightline. And take a good look at this, because you're not going to see this too often, maybe never again. Flightline, 20 lengths clear. Flavian Prat takes a hold and canters in the TVG Pacific Classic.
Flightline's a very serious athlete. He takes his job very seriously. And so when he goes out on the track, it's all business. He's not playing around. He really does have everything you look for, but times 10.
Flightline coming in to the Breeders' Cup Classic off one of the most impressive single race performances that we have seen in recent memory. A 126 Spire speed figure. The winning margin in the TVG Pacific Classic was 19 1/4 lengths in a jog. He could have won by 30 1/4 lengths if he decided to run the final 1/8 of a mile. Flightline, he is a perfect 5 for 5, and he's your 3 to 5 morning line favorite coming up on Saturday in the Breeders' Cup Classic. For those that are just joining us here on breakfast at the Breeders' Cup, unfortunately, you already missed Flightline. He went to the track earlier today when the track opened at 6 a.m. So, Todd, we'll look forward to Flightline hitting the track once again tomorrow at 6 a.m. as he resumes his daily gallop schedule.
So there's this debate, obviously, in horse racing. Where does Flightline belong with all the greats? I think we have to wait till Saturday, but let's have a little bit of it anyway, because John Sadler's put it out there. He keeps bringing up Spectacular Bid, who is, without a doubt, one of the greatest horses of all time.
Right.
Some put him up there with Secretariat. But Spectacular Bid had 30 starts.
Yeah, that's the problem. It's the light resume, and that's where the historians are going to think of find not fault with Flightline, but I think they're going to penalize him when you start, trying to rank him as one of the best. And I think he's one of the best, probably, if he wins very impressively on Saturday, that we've seen the last 20, 30 years. There's no question about that. Or 20 years, I would say. But I think the lack of races, he's going to get penalized with true historians.
It's a real reflection of the way a lot of racing and management is going, though, just in general.
Right.
There's
Yeah.
fewer
It's a sign of the
campaigns
time,
for
yes.
every horse. Already looking to a stallion career. I mentioned on Twitter right after the Pacific Classic, -8 on Thoroughgraph, the fastest since they started doing those figures. Now, we weren't doing them back in some of the older days, but still, the fastest horse on record that we have since we've started keeping more sophisticated speed figures.
Yeah, well, like I said earlier in the week, there's a lot on the line, especially for race fans on Saturday, because if he does win impressively, there's been serious talk that he might stay in training next year. Bill Farish said earlier this week, the decision will be made after the race.
I hope so, but I don't know. I hope we see him next year.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, it's very, people say, well, just put him out there and leave him in training. You're dealing with a very, very expensive commodity, and as an ownership group, it can be, there's a lot of owners involved in that. So I'm sure there's a lot of voices tugging and pulling in different directions. So it's a tough call. I don't know what you do.
So I'm looking at Cy Young here, considered one of the greatest pitchers of all time.
Okay.
Do you know what Cy Young's record was as a baseball pitcher? 511 wins, 315 losses.
Wow.
It's unfathomable that this day and age...
starters can't get through 5 innings.
Right. So are we going to say a pitcher comes along now and he's not one of the greatest of all time because he didn't pitch as many times as, say, a Cy Young? It's different eras.
Yes.
So in the case of Flightline, I do think you have to take the singular performances, measure them, and by any measure, that TVG Pacific Classic holds up as one of the great performances in horse racing history. By figures, by margin, by what you saw in the eye test. I do think the bar is elevated now for the Breeders' Cup Classic, and he's got to clear it. And his connections have put it out there with John Sadler bringing up Spectacular Bid. But if we see a track record, if we see him dominate this group, which everyone says is the deepest group, then again, elevates and legitimizes his place in horse racing history.
Should I tell you, you know when a horse is good? When after Saturday, if he wins by a length and a half, 2 lengths, we're like, that's a disappointing performance.
Yeah, that's where we are. That's where we are.
That's exactly where we are. That if he wins by 2 or 3, we're like, he won, but it wasn't the true Flightline. That we expect him to crush the competition he faces.
Okay, a lot on the line for Flightline, even as the expected favorite in the Longines Breeders' Cup Classic. Gabby, where are you right now?
I am literally in the tractor. I'm in the companion seat, and James is driving. Modern technology, man. I'm just holding an iPhone, and we're going live right now. James, what are we doing right now, and what's the plan?
Right now, we're doing the renovation break, just preparing the track for the next set of workers that are coming out.
Okay, so we are actually on the rail. We're tractor number 1. What are the things that you're keeping in mind here? First and foremost, how do you decide how fast you go?
So we've got basically a speed limit set that we try not to run anything faster than 5.5 miles an hour. And the main things I'm looking for right now is I'm making sure my front teeth are set to take out any of the hoof prints, the hoof divots, and smooth everything back out, and then my back teeth are set to get a nice finish left on the track.
What's this that we're looking at right now? It's like a little screen.
This is basically my dash. It's got the speed that I'm going on it. It's got what gear selection I'm in, my fuel, RPMs, all that good stuff.
What about all of this down here? Oh, sorry, my camera's going crazy, but all of this right here.
This is my control cluster. It's got my hydraulic levers. It's got my temperature controls, my 3-point hitch lift arms. It's got all my fancy controls is right here.
All right. Now, guys, obviously I am not a camera woman. Wait, is that the eject button? Are you going to eject me?
No, we won't have to inject you today.
All right, he said not today, guys. Not today. No eject button yet.
We got a soundtrack.
Gabby, can you guys do a little dance in there? We get a little TikTok in the tractor. We're loving it, Gabby. Great
I told
work,
you yesterday.
as always.
I have no rhythm.
Oh, I've seen plenty of rhythm in those TikTok videos.
Seriously.
Kenny Chesney, right?
Kenny Chesney, one of his first big hits.
Out in the tractor, and I believe Mike Joyce had done this at Santa Anita one year. These tractors, even from that time, it looks like these tractors have improved. The models are always changing. John Deere has always been a great friend as well to the Breeders' Cup.
Well, the camera work's improved. Mike had to cram a camera person in there with him. I think big old camera. We got an iPhone doing the
It was
business.
pressed up against the window.
Can she turn it backwards, Gabby? Can you go out the back window? Can we see the harrow? I'm trying to produce from the set now. That's always.
Oh, the back teeth. The back teeth. There you go.
There we go.
Michelle,
it's a little dirty.
There you go.
Yeah.
Michelle Yu wishes that there was a John Deere to pick her up at the airport the other night, but she's here and she's fine. Michelle?
Thanks, Todd. I'm joined right now by Kaio Karamori and George Sarp, and they are representing a couple of horses in the Breeders' Cup. First, I'm gonna talk to you. This is your first Breeders' Cup. How do you feel right now?
Super excited. I'm very, very happy to be here and proud of our stable, small stable. Glad to be here.
Now, George, I don't know if a lot of people know you outside of California where we get to hang out with you all the time, but you're a little difficult to deal with.
I beg to differ. I think I'm an angel.
Has it been a really fun ride hanging out with George?
Absolutely. George is great. He's embraced me and my family and done a lot for us.
And George, let's talk about Curly, Larry, and Mo. First of all, the name. I know you've had a barrage of requests about the name.
Right. The hats are really popular. And everyone's asking me why the name. Well, he's a Motown and an Uncle Mo behind him, and it just seemed like an absolute natural to honor the boys. I'm a big fan of their genre, and we got here, and everyone's loving the name. I'm getting so many comments.
Let's talk a little bit about getting here, because you have horses that have broke their maidens. Why jump into the Breeders' Cup?
Well, we always felt like he was two turns and turf, and we brought the horse along in the sprints just to teach him how to race. And when he broke his maiden 3 weeks ago, I was talking with Scott Hazelton, and I told him this was his coming out party, and we felt like that was where he belonged. And the first thing we said, Kyle and I looked at each other and we said, we're coming into this race, and we're like tickled to be here.
Kyle, let's talk a little bit about the experience right here. If you could sum it up in one word.
I mean, it's exhilarating. It's an exhilarating experience. I mean, just to be here in the morning and everybody out there. I mean, it's great. I'm riding my pony. My brother's coming and help ride the horse, and it's great.
That was more than one word, but congratulations, you guys, on being here. Happy to have you. Joaquin, where are you at?
Actually, just down the shed road, Michelle. I'm here with trainer Jonathan Thomas. He has Delight in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies Turf. Jonathan, what did Delight do this morning here at Keeneland?
Just had a little gallop on the training track. We'd like to take her down there. It's a little quieter. She's a really generous training filly, so we like keep it quiet with her. But she looked great this morning. Moved well. All the things you like to see.
Looking at her work tab, she's had 2 works on the turf, a 52 work in the most recent work on the grass. Going that slow, is that something that's normal and part of your program?
A little bit. I mean, what we were looking for is just a very easy opening quarter and then finishing up. I think she came home the last 2 furlongs, last quarter in 23, and then she went ahead and galloped out in 36 and change around. So we were kind of looking for a huge gallop out, which they had. Yeah, no, I was pretty happy with it.
Appreciate the time, and good luck in the Breeders' Cup. We'll let you get on with your morning here.
Thank you.
Groove is in the heart. Delight, dominating winner of the Grade 2 J.P. Morgan Chase Jessamine Stakes last time out. She's improving with each start, and with the fact that last win was over this turf course at Keeneland, she's a viable horse in that race.
She was able to set a nice, easy tempo in the early stages. So the fact that she really poured it on late, she kicked clear. She was 5.5 lengths free of that group and improving as they hit the wire. Definitely passed the eye test out there.
Gabby coming by? Do I hear our fleet of tractors? Gabby coming by the front side here as part of our renovation break.
Where is she? There she is.
There she goes.
Give us a wave, Gabby.
Been in a horse thing?
Yeah, Gabby.
Do you have my mic now? Okay.
Gab.
We hear you, Gab.
I have a lot of...
It's like watching the queen
right
of
here.
the local parade.
There she is.
Yeah.
Right there.
Elbow,
That's her.
elbow, wrist, Gabby.
Right
Just like the Rose Queen.
But here's the thing about Gabby. If you came back tomorrow, she'd take James's spot. She'd be driving the
It's
thing.
true. She could.
She'd be driving the thing.
I mean, it's all autopilot anyway.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, it's like flying planes. It's easy. Just press the button.
Yeah. Here we go.
Yep. We're landing, guys.
I'll tell you what's real easy. Playing the Breeders' Cup, if you have a FanDuel racing account, we're so sure you're going to love it. We're offering a no-sweat first win bet up to $100. You heard that right. Get up to $100 back if you don't win your first single-horse win bet. Scan that QR code on the screen and be playing the Breeders' Cup with the official wagering partner of the Breeders' Cup, FanDuel. We have much more coming up here on Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup. I don't know how she gets out of there. They've got to go for a while, but Gabby Godden at some point will be out of the tractors and on her way to WinStar. Much more coming up after this.
When the thoroughbred world descends upon Lexington this November, there is one place you need to be. The place where history comes alive with every championship victory.
He's authentic indeed!
The place where the future is built with the fall of a gavel. The place that exists to be the heart of this industry. The center of it all. Home to the November breeding stock sale and 2022 Breeders' Cup, Keeneland.
Honor AP, a mesmerizing horse from the very beginning, who captured the imagination of the racing world and proved his potential on the track. A Grade 1 winner, out of a multiple Grade 1 winner, with incomparable looks and an unbeatable pedigree. The speed, the bloodline, the physical. Honor AP. Only at Lane's End.
This is a Kentucky Thoroughbred. This is a Kentucky-built powerfoil industrial fan. Like a Thoroughbred, it too delivers unrivaled performance. And while they both run with purpose and pride, this one runs to keep your workforce feeling cool and comfortable. Powerfoil, the best-selling big fan in the world. BigFans.com. Exceptionally engineered.
A Grade 1 winner of nearly $2 million, Silver State hails from the sire line of legendary Claiborne stallion Danzig. And his second dam is full sister to Kentucky Derby winner Monarchos. After winning the Oaklawn Handicap, Silver State defeated Knicks Go in the Grade 1 Metropolitan Handicap. On the board in 12 of 14 starts from ages 2 to 4, his career included a 6-race winning streak. Grade 1 winner Silver State, standing at Claiborne Farm.
Trade Storm to win the Rico Woodbine Mile.
She's going to do it. Simple Verse has won the Ledger.
Snake Nick Spear and Asheen Murphy get through and have won.
It's getting really tight. The star of the season, Drawing Line.
The purple cap, Kamiko the far side of him. Kamiko's won. Feel them in line. Mongostine has just won it with Mosse.
Ocean Road after going to Vegas. Ocean Road.
The industry has a few things that we have to take care of better, and one was the aftercare of the horses.
We have a social responsibility to make sure that thoroughbred aftercare is also #1 on the list.
Just the word aftercare has become part of the vernacular in a way that it was not.
We started with some 21 organizations, and now we're up to over 82 facilities throughout the country and giving away almost just under $25 million.
Hollywood Park, Inglewood, California for the inaugural Breeders' Cup, the biggest day in thoroughbred racing history.
It was obviously at Hollywood Park, which is now a fantastic football stadium. But then, you know, racing was big. You could get crowds of 50, 60, 70,000. And actually so many turned up for the inaugural Breeders' Cup that we ran out of programs. And I remember if you were waiting for your lunch, you had bread rolls till about the 4th race. They were overwhelmed with the numbers. It was a great occasion, you know, the inaugural Breeders' Cup. Great racing, and obviously we were in the mile with the Royal Heron, who became an Eclipse Award-winning filly herself, and broke the American and the world record for the mile. So it was what you call exciting.
And they're off. They're coming to the final 16th of the mile. Royal Heron sweeping to the lead from the outside. Cozine is now second. Tights is making a late run, and they're coming to the finish. Royal Heron, a host of others closing in, but here's the wire, and Royal Heron has won it.
It's been a hugely successful concept. And obviously it was a one-day meeting, then it's gone to the 2-day meeting, and there's no doubt it gives a great finale to the season. I mean, it becomes our Super Bowl, if you like, rather than the season just slightly, the racing year just sort of disappearing.
Well,
Well, John Gosden has seen the evolution of the Breeders' Cup program through these decades. He's also seen the evolution of worldwide racing in recent decades. When you include races such as the Dubai World Cup, obviously Pegasus World Cup at the beginning of the year, and races such as the Saudi Cup. And Mishrif was able to secure a victory in the Saudi Cup just last year, earning tens of millions of dollars in doing so, and a horse that's made over $15 million to date. This year he's 0 for 6 thus far, and we'll see how he fares coming in to this spot here today. Now, he makes his first trip to the United States, a horse that has picked up Group 1 victories on dirt and turf, won the Juddmonte International, part of that brilliant campaign that we saw from him in 2021, and also going to get a chance to see him out here in just a matter of minutes. He is scheduled to come out to the training track with a few other Europeans. So Mishrif getting ready for his final race of his career before he sends himself off to stud. We'll get a chance to see him compete here in the United States for a final time, and that will take place in the Longines Breeders' Cup Turf. So should be coming out any moment. Mishrif, one of the richest horses that this game has ever seen.
If one horse can epitomise success on the international stage, it is Mishrif. And we're here in Newmarket to visit him and his trainer John Gosden as they bid to bow out in the best way possible at the Breeders' Cup.
Leading by 3, 4 lengths in the Juvenile International.
Well, I suppose he's been an incredibly versatile horse. I mean, from a mile to a mile and a half. Probably his best distance is a mile and a quarter. You know, he's won French derbies and won on fast ground, run on soft ground. He's won on the, you know, the dirt, the sand track of in Riyadh in Saudi Arabia. So he's varied it all, and then he's gone on 1 and a mile and a half in Dubai. And this year he was a little unlucky not to win the Eclipse mile and a quarter in England, which is one of our major races. So he's been a very consistent horse at this top level. He didn't particularly enjoy the bottomless swamp of Longchamp in the Arc, but he's in great form here and ready to run the final race of his life before he goes to stud in France.
Last year you attempted by Delmar, but you decided against. Why do you think Keeneland might suit him this year?
Well, obviously for us, you know, if you ask a European horse which track they probably prefer Woodbine. I mean, a big sweeping track with a longer straight. So Delmar has pretty well the shortest straight of any Grade 1 track in America, and I didn't think that would see the best of him, and therefore we didn't come last year. But Keeneland, as long as it doesn't rain, will be fine.
And one quirk, or potentially one thing that sort of let him down, was being slow out the gates a little bit this season. How have you been able to iron that out?
Well, he broke well in his last start. He was very good. And the one before, you know, the Juddmonte International. So he has been much better at that, and we actually jumped him out yesterday, and he was very much on the ball and broke well. So hopefully he's put that well behind him.
And from a trainer-owner relationship perspective, Prince Faisal and yourself have obviously been long associates as well, but how satisfying has it been to give him that Saudi Cup winner and the rest?
Very much on his home territory, but you know, he's a very successful owner-breeder. He doesn't have a big broodmare band. In fact, it's quite tight and small, but he's been a highly successful breeder down the years, and I think when you're an owner breeder, it's far more fulfilling than just having bought the horse. When you've, you know, nurtured the mare, the land, picked the stallion, done the matings, and then you come up with a really good one. And of course, Make Believe was his horse as well, and to that extent he's been highly successful, but quite disciplined with it.
Prince Faisal has said that the attention to detail you put into training your horses is what makes you world class. What has been the detail to get the best out of Mishrif?
Well, I think you have to have the horse that can travel, that has the mind and the strength for it, and that versatility at distance and surface, and he's certainly managed to do that. To that extent, you know, when you have a horse who can handle those variations, fine. A lot of horses tend to want to be a particular type of track over a particular distance, ridden in a particular way. He's not one of those. He has the ability to do it. He's a tough customer, as he's proved by his record. You know, if you've got a horse that's game willing and enjoys racing, why not?
Well, Well, he's been quite the warrior through this point, and we expect it to carry on into his progeny after his final race, which we'll see on Saturday in the Longines Breeders' Cup Turf. He's had several riders on his back, and he's going to have Frankie Dettori back with him again this weekend to ride in the Breeders' Cup Turf. And it's been quite a season for Frankie and John Gosden going back to Ascot. I mean, that was one of the biggest bits of discussion that we had that entire week when we were at Royal Ascot, the up and down nature, eventually down for, what, a week and a half and then back up again to where they reunited. So they'll be back together again, Frankie, Gosden, this time with Mishrif in the Breeders' Cup.
Yeah, you were obviously there at Ascot when you saw the whole shenanigans that went on involving John Gosden, Stradivaris' connections, and Frankie Dettori. And of course, Frankie Dettori has ridden Mishrif before in the past. He won on him as a 3-year-old. He won the Group 2 Prix d'Ornono. He's funny enough, Frankie Dettori, I worked with him about a month ago, and he was very keen to get back on Mishrif if that was a possibility out here. He thought he had a good chance in the Breeders' Cup Turf. And if you look at the best form in Mishrif's career, it puts him right in the mix. The question is he still capable of that form that he showed when he won the Saudi Cup, when he won the Shima Classic, when he won the Juvenile International? He hasn't quite been at that level, though he's been a little bit unlucky in 1 or 2 runs since.
We've got some big names out here right now on the training track. We had Highfield Princess. We'll get to her in a bit. The Breeders' Cup turf sprint charge for the UK. But Mishrif has made his way out here onto the training track. You're seeing him right now. We're going to get a chance to see him with our own eyes once he passes by us.
Now, a lot of people look at Mishrif's run last time in the Arc and think that was a disappointing effort. I think, and I mentioned this to Todd earlier in the week, Scott, that if you put a line through that run, you'll get a better gauge on Mishrif's status and his performances this season. The run in the Arc, unfortunately, the ground completely against him, very grueling conditions. William Buick, who rode him on that occasion, was very keen to protect him once his chance had gone in the race. So, unfortunately, that race not a true guide to the ability of Mishrif, and I think on his best form, he'd be in the mix.
We've also got some heavy hitters out here. Kinross, Dream Loper just going by us. We'll see them in a bit and talk about them in a bit. But Highfield Princess, as mentioned, we saw her go by us. She was actually looking to the infield of the training track when she came by us for the first time. There's some different things to take in, and this is part of the process of these European horses, getting used to their surroundings, their environment, and obviously we talk about this all the time, and trainers, horsemen will talk about this. When you come here to Keeneland, there's a calming bit to it. It's not as busy, especially this time of the year, because the focus when we're here for the Breeders' Cup is just on the Breeders' Cup horses. So it's very much, I don't want to compare it to a European setting for these Euros, but more so than what you would find at a typical American scenario encounter, if you would, coming into a Breeders' Cup weekend.
Well, that's something to bear in mind. I mean, interestingly enough, the Highfield Princess, yeah, you're right. She was sort of taking in all around her, and she occasionally carries her head a little bit high, but she's quite well experienced. I mean, she had 23 runs in races over 7 furlongs and further before Connections decided to have a go at sprinting, which they did this season and this year, and obviously it's been the making of her.
Let's go to Kinross. He's one of the leaders for the Breeders' Cup Mile. Is the ground going to bring out the best in him, though? That's the question, because it's not going to be soft. We're not going to get any rain between now and Saturday.
That will be the issue for Kinross, Scott. You're absolutely right. His best form has come with cut in the ground. It is also possible he's just also a better horse at the moment. He has improved physically, he's improved mentally, and he's a very, very talented performer. It's a big ask, though, to win on Arc Weekend, then win on Champions Day, and then come to the Breeders' Cup. That's a rare feat to try and pull off.
And then Dream Loper also out there as well. Dream Loper, the Group 1 winner, most recently at Longchamp, also has been supplemented to the upcoming the Keeneland November sale, which will take place immediately after the Breeders' Cup. Let's get back over to Joaquin.
Well, Scott, as this renovation break is ending, we got some Breeders' Cup stars that are making their way up to the track, going up to the 7-8 sheet right here. Leading this pack, that is going to be the multiple Grade 1 winner, Malathot. Right behind Malathot is going to be Annapolis for the Todd Pletcher barn. And these turquoise wraps right here, that's going to be Slammed going out for Todd Fincher. You have Domestic Spending right here, Domestic Spending coming in off a 64-week layoff. So Michelle got a lot of horses that are just left the barn area here as this renovation break is getting ready to end here in just a couple minutes, Michelle.
Yes, Joaquin, I'm part of, it feels like the Derby walkover right now, and I'm joined by George Papadromo and his charge, American Anthem. This is the first day he's come to the track. I have to say he's been being a super professional horse.
Yeah, Michelle, he's a little on his toes today. It's first day back. Yeah, a little fresh. But yeah, we're looking good, and it's first day back and excited, you know.
Tell me what it's been like to be a part of this. I mean, you have a huge stable at home. You come here with like one horse. What's your day like?
I mean, it's a little crazy. Yeah, you gotta make some phone calls back home and make sure everything's okay back home too. Plus, you gotta take care of this one right here for the big race. And I mean, a little work, but fun, great, excited, and looking forward to it.
I feel like you feel like I feel right now, huffing and puffing up the hill. Are you happy we don't have hills like this at Santa Anita?
I know.
What about the draw yesterday? What were your thoughts about his draw?
Yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy with the draw. I liked, you know, we could probably get load up in there pretty much late, and that's a good thing about it. I'm okay with it, yeah.
All right, thanks, George Papadromo. American Anthem heading out to the track, and we are heading to break.
It's time to bet the race, and FanDuel Racing has entered the starting gate. Download the FanDuel Racing app, and you're off. It's super easy to use from the start. Make every moment more with tools to help you win on the inside. Watch out for great promos and easy deposits. And here comes fast payouts. It's super easy to use. It's fast payouts. It's super easy. There's no doubt about it. The best place to bet is FanDuel Racing.
New customers bet the Breeders' Cup and get up to $100 back if your horse doesn't win.
TVG's free handicapping tools are at your fingertips. Access expert picks, both found on the app and at TVG.com. Find selections in either the Promotions header, under the More tab, or on the race page for select races. And follow your experts to get notified when new picks are available. Then use the bet ticket to play along. Check out TVG's expert picks, both on the app and at TVG.com.
You called that touchdown. Saw that sack coming. Predicted the pizza tasted better than it looks. And of course, you knew the game's not over until it's over. So this NFL season, put your skills to the test with FanDuel's free games for a shot at $1 million in prizes. FanDuel, make every moment more.
Longines. Malathot from trainer Todd Pletcher's barn, getting ready to come out onto the racetrack. You're watching it live here on Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup, brought to you by Windstar Farm and Keeneland Racecourse. I'm Todd Schrupp, along with Christina Blacker and Simon Bray, on site here at Keeneland, which will be hosting the Breeders' Cup this Friday and Saturday. Malathot installed as a 3-to-1 second choice in the Longines Breeders' Cup distaff.
Yeah, I mean, this is a filly that's been extremely well handled, and I mean, this is very fitting for the legacy of Sheikh Hamdan, right, who unfortunately passed away, I think, just over a year ago, right, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, and Shadwell Stable is now carried on by his daughter Sheikh Ahissa, and you know, it's fitting because they've reduced the number of horses they have in their stable, but she is clearly the head of that stable right now, and she's coming in such good shape.
Andy Biancone, trackside.
Todd, right now I'm ponying Slammed, our Breeders' Cup filly and mare sprint contender. Assistant trainer for Todd Fincher and Rudy Baez on board. Slammed has been such a good girl. She had one little moment coming up the hill. She kind of jumped, but after that she stood really nicely just at the opening of the chute and just was taking everything in. She's got a lot of head pets. As you can see, everyone right now is jogging for the veterinary checks. The vets have all their eyes on these horses to make sure that they are doing their best and ready to train today. Slammed is gonna go for a nice easy gallop. We're gonna back her up just about to the middle of the turn, and then she'll be on her way. Todd?
Slammed drawing the rail in the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint. Also, very tempting price of 15-1 in the morning line. The big question for me with her is not her pace. I think she's going to be leading that race. And we talked about her physical build. She is built like a sprinter. It's the 7 furlongs. That extra furlong is what will concern me in that race.
And she would want, you know, obviously to be on the lead, and so I don't think the rail is a problem for her, but she is going to take a lot of pressure from that position. And so I think there's a different scenario when you're able to get out on the lead on your own, or you're able to, you know, be up there on a comfortable tempo versus having other horses immediately to your outside and pressing you a little bit faster than you might naturally want to go.
Sometimes it's easier to go, say, 44 and change on your own, clear by 2, than it is to go 45 and 3 with 3 horses either side of you. I think there's, on paper, to me, there's more speed in this sprint race than the male version.
Oh, really?
I think so, in the early stages, yeah. I think Jack Christopher, probably in the male version, dominates in the early stages there. But to Christina's point, Slammed is going to get a lot of friends and company up front in the early stages.
And at the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint, one of the first 2 championship races on Saturday. As a matter of fact, it will be the first championship race on Saturday. And you can only see that on FanDuel TV. Very proud to be the exclusive outlet for the first 2 races on Championship Saturday. We saw American Theorem going out onto the racetrack, and here is a look at American Theorem now for trainer George Papadromo. You know, talking about good horsemanship, he's had to be patient with a horse that he knew in his 2-year-old season had a lot of ability, but had a lot of setbacks too.
He had some setbacks. They went through all the different scenarios, right? Short, long, turf, dirt, everything. And he's finally found his home here, I think, sprinting on the dirt. I want this horse to win just by for no reason.
Throw the program?
Yeah, other than to see George Papadromo win a Breeders' Cup race and the show that we will see afterwards. It might be the highlight of the weekend.
And his signature win, the Grade 1 Bing Crosby at Del Mar, going 6 furlongs. That was important to me because I always thought 7 furlongs would be his ideal distance, but he showed in the Bing Crosby, especially at the right setup, yeah, he can handle that distance and then some.
You see, when you look through this race, though, I mean, am I wrong? I was saying there's not as much speed in this race. I mean, when you look for field
it's Jackie's Warrior, right? And
right.
then who else is going to be fast enough to keep up with Jackie's Warrior is the question.
And then we're talking about, you know, Jack Christopher would have been, but he's out, obviously, or didn't enter. We're talking about, you know, the Breeders' Cup Sprint. Just by definition, you would expect to see 3 or 4 more speeds. Maybe they'll materialize. You know, sometimes these races not run as they look on paper.
I keep coming back to Kamari a little bit in there. I mean, she's in her career best form. I know Jackie's Warrior is very fast. He's going to be on the lead, but Kamari just seems like she keeps getting better. She loves Keeneland. She loves the distance. She'll be stalking. Jackie's Warrior will be on the lead. This horse is hoping that somebody can press Jackie enough that he can come with that late closing kick. Because remember, from his works and from his Bing Crosby, he really runs the turns well. You can't stop his momentum once you get that engine going. He has a lot of power, a lot of bone, a lot of muscle. He's going to be flying late, but will it be enough? Because Jackie's Warrior isn't going to come back to you at 6 furlongs.
Right, and to your point, Kamari is that horse who's not going to be as far back as American Theorem, not going to be on the lead burning it up, gets that perfect spot right behind the front runner.
Historically in the Breeders' Cup, it has been about the West Coast-based horses. That's what they do. They're speed horses, and the sprint division has been dominated most years by them. Is that shifting at all?
It's changed
I think
in the
it has.
last year to just, I think, by virtue of the horses that Bob Baffert has right now. I mean,
Right.
where's Bob Baffert in this sprint?
Yeah.
And then CZ Rocket, he's 8 years old now. I think he's kind of lost a step a little bit compared to some of his younger days. It's Bob Baffert, Pete Miller. They don't have their usual arsenal of sprinters, which I think is the reason that feels different.
Yeah, I mean, Bob Baffert's going to the he's coming here to the yearling sales, and he's buying 2-turn horses now. I think if a sprinter comes out of his barn now, it's kind of by, you know, happenstance more than anything else.
Some of the big news out of the sprint division was the announcement that Jack Christopher would not be entered. Disappointment for trainer Chad Brown. Michelle Yu with him now.
Thanks so much, Todd. Chad, right now we're watching Goodnight Olive out here, actually, and I saw you taking pictures of her. I feel like you're kind of fanboy. You really like this filly.
I was taking pictures of Harley, actually. It's such an honor. You know, Harley can be with any of these horses out there. To be Goodnight Olive, we know that she made it big time if Harley's with her.
Let's talk about her chances in here. She's coming in with a huge streak. I mean, 20 some odd lengths combined in her races. Yeah. And how do you get her to peak at this time?
You know, a lot of patience from me, my team, the ownership group. It's just been, you know, wonderful. She's had some stoppages along the way, and there was a couple times I didn't think she'd make it, but she always had that talent, and my team really deserves all the credit. They've done a wonderful job bringing this horse together sound, and she can finally reach that potential we thought she had.
She just actually walked by us right now. She looked like she had tons of energy on the track. Is that her normal MO?
It is. You know, she's always been a forward training horse with a lot of energy, a sharp work horse, and as you can see, when she does make it to the afternoon and actually gets in races, she's brilliant.
And I want to ask a little bit about domestic spending, too. That's a big ask for a horse to come in off over a year layoff right into the Breeders' Cup, and I know you weren't happy with his draw.
No, it's tough. You know, he has a lot to overcome, and then throw that on top of it. I'm asking the world of this horse. So, you know, Flavian's going to have to come up with a plan how to work out a trip from there. We'll see what happens.
And just real quick, touching on Jack Christopher, how is it to push past a disappointing thing like what's happened with him and go on to our biggest day of racing?
Well, fortunately, we have a lot of other horses in the races. I'd feel really bad if it was with someone only had one horse for the series here this weekend. So we're thankful for that, and we're also thankful he's had a really good year, solid year, and you know, the horse is safe, and we'll figure out what's next for him. But in horse racing, you know, you're going to have a lot of bad news along the way, and you just have to turn the page and just try to move forward positively. And, you know, the sun's going to come up tomorrow, so everyone's fine, and we're looking forward to this weekend for sure.
I appreciate the time, and I can't wait to see Harley as your screensaver.
Thank you. We'll be there in 2 minutes.
Guys.
Yeah, you also got the Harley doll.
The figurine, the Breyer figure.
There is a whole cottage industry around Harley, one of the most famous pony horses in the world. Malathot is one of the most famous female race horses coming into the Breeders' Cup with the Longines Breeders' Cup distaff. Malathot out on the racetrack for trainer Todd Pletcher. As we talked about, drew the rail yesterday in the Longines Breeders' Cup distaff. Simon Bray noting that the rail has actually been very good to Malathot in her racing career.
Won 3 out of 4 from there, and the one time she did get beaten, it was by a head. So, and that was earlier on in her career in the coaching club Oaks. So, she's, you know, she's. I would describe her where some of these other fillies like Clariere is a little more feminine, a little more light on toes. This filly's a little more rugged. She's more of a grinder, a little more hardy. She's a filly that wouldn't want to get stopped when she makes her move. She just kind of keeps on coming. I use the old cliche. She's like a greyhound bus. You know, you get her up to speed, you tap on the brakes. It's going to take her a while, I think, to get going. She's a little quirky. John Velasquez knows her perfectly. They're a good match now.
When have you ever been on a greyhound bus? I want to know that you've been on a greyhound bus. Please tell me that happened.
I've driven by a couple.
That's right. So that's what it's like.
Yeah.
Malathot, as far as where she'll be in this race, Christine, I imagine it's not going to be much different than her previous starts, probably sitting about mid-pack?
Yeah, I think so. I think she'll be sitting mid-pack. Now, she is drawn at the rail, so it's going to be up to John Velasquez to make sure that he has enough room and enough position to get her going. If you look through her form, to Simon's point, her margins of victory outside of the spinster, where she was only taking on 4 others, are pretty minimal. She's going to beat you by a half length, by a quarter length, by a neck. She likes a fight. She's right there. But she's not the type like a Nest who's just going to blow the doors off horses. She doesn't have that turf turn of foot on the main track that some dirt horses have as another weapon in their arsenal.
She's not a flashy performer. I mean, she's not blue collar, but she's not explosive. She's just a grinder.
So we're watching everything going on here on the main track, and Scott Hazelton, Rishi Prasad watching everything going on at the training track.
Yeah, there's a flurry of activity right now. We see Mishrif just coming off the training track. Nashua for the Filly and Mare Turf probably would be the most likely winner of the group that's coming over here. But we just had Flotus come on onto the track for Simon Crisford. She'll be running in race number 4 on Saturday, the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint. And Simon Crisford having won the Summer Stakes earlier this summer with her over at York. So what do you make of her most recent races, especially at Longchamp last time out?
She's had a pretty good season, Scott. She's probably surprised 1 or 2 people, but she's definitely improved through the season. I think if you look at her best form, she comes up short against the likes of Highfield Princess, etc. She does have plenty of pace, Floaters. She likes to be out on the lead. She likes to be near the head of affairs. But I do believe that when you look at the very best form of the European horses and the European contenders, that she falls a little bit short. I'm sure she'll run well. She looks great. She looked great going out onto the training track.
Yeah, the daughter of Star Spangled Banner. She's just 2 wins last year from 6 starts as she takes her campaign to the international stage. We see Dream Loper just coming off the track, showing an immense amount of class, mile contender, and was mentioning that she'll be selling at the Keeneland November sale immediately after the Breeders' Cup here at Keeneland. So quite a bit of action right now behind us, and as they come off onto the track, haven't seen many connections as far as trainers coming over this way, so I think we're going to have to head over to the quarantine barn at some point in time.
No trainers here, but Mise en Scene, who just drifted past behind us, trained by John Ferguson, who had Dover Legend finish 4th in the Melbourne Cup tonight. I think James Ferguson's on his way over from Melbourne, but his dad, John Ferguson's down here supervising proceedings, and of course it used to be the other way around. His dad used to train and he used to supervise proceedings. So roles changing as we age.
Yeah, the winds of change have blown here, or are continuing to blow. But we look forward to more of the activity here at the training track as the Euros make their ways out for the first time to these tracks after clearing quarantine, Tom.
Good on you, Scott and Rishi. When we come back, we're going to get back into the analysis and more going on the racetrack. But in the meantime, when you download FanDuel Plus, it's the best way to get ready for the Breeders' Cup. You can look back at these previous Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup shows. You can follow us live. We've got coverage of all the significant events leading up to 2 championship days of racing, expert analysis. You can look back at the Breeders' Cup Challenge Series races as well. Download FanDuel Plus today. More Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup brought to you by Windstar Farm in Keeneland here on FanDuel TV right after this.
We're closely associated with Todd Pletcher, and for as long as I've known Todd, he's as high on Constitution as any other stallion that I can remember. It's resulted in us buying 5 Constitutions here at this sale for Mike Rapoli and Vinny Viola, and then Mike himself. He loves being able to train them. Todd always thought that that horse was uber talented, and we're seeing him pass that on to his progeny.
On FanDuel Casino, we make it easy to turn your site credit into real money. Unlike other casinos who make you wager your site credit over and over before you can withdraw it, we play fair. Just play through it once and you keep what you win. Turning all your site credit into real cash is that simple. Plus, you'll get paid your way, quickly and securely. Come see why FanDuel Casino promotions give you so much more than other online casinos. Join FanDuel Casino and play it again with up to $1,000 back if you're down on your first day.
FanDuel is dropping you in the middle of all the fantasy football action all season long. Right now, new customers can play $1 worth of contests and get a $10 bonus instant. It's easy to build a team in minutes. And from single game to season-long contests, you can take home W's all year long. Make every moment more with FanDuel.
Behind Tyler's Tribe as they come to the final quarter mile. Kylie Jordan has not moved a muscle on the big favorite. It's all Tyler's Tribe. Tyler's Tribe just cantering past the 16th pole. He's a 6th-length winner of the Iowa Cradle.
Yeah, some didn't enter.
It is one of the most anticipated sights each and every year at the Breeders' Cup, and that is Aidan O'Brien bringing out his horses onto the track for the first time. And that is what has always been fascinating to me about the Breeders' Cup. Trainers and their approaches to getting horses ready for the races, and Aidan O'Brien is really a time-tested approach here that we get to see.
Well, Aidan's Army, as it's been affectionately known over the years. That's Order of Australia, one of the 7 returning champions here. And things are a little different with Aidan. This is obviously, if you're not familiar, this is how a lot of European horses train back in the UK, Ireland, etc., France. You know, they go out in groups, massive groups. They train kind of single file like this in behind. And when European runners come over here, for the most part, the trainers don't bring a whole lot of horses. It's 1 or 2. Aidan always brings 7 or 8, so he can do this. He gets to take them all out, try to simulate the conditions that they're doing.
But there has been some conjecture about, take, for example, the Longines Breeders' Cup Turf. He's got Broom. Like, he had other horses that probably had better resumes that it could have come over here. So there's some talk about how deep is the group that he brought over here.
Right, yeah. I don't think it's, in his own words, probably not one of the strongest groups he's brought over, or should I say he's brought stronger horses over in the past. That's Broom with the big white blaze.
And he was second last year in the Longines Breeders' Cup Turf. Looked like he was winning, turning for home.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, but look at this. It's just perfection. And I mean, he's so used to it. He's been doing this a long time. The staff knows what to do. They have a routine wherever they fly, no matter what. You go to the Dubai World Cup, it's a similar situation. They do the same thing each and every year.
It's also interesting just to see how used to the routine they are, because how many of the American horses have we seen training and getting really aggressive and getting kind of on the muscle and wanting to do more, because they aren't used to going in a line like this. These horses are so accustomed to this as their routine. None of them are really fighting their riders, trying to do more, whether they're going in that line around the racetrack or up a hill on the gallops at home. They're in Europe. They're used to what they're doing, and they're kind of all in their routine, even in a new environment.
One thing I will say, they're very, Christine's exactly right. Usually we're accustomed to seeing them get pretty warm the first day when they're out, and you know, they're wearing those European blankets, which you see there. You don't see here in the US. I don't see that's the case here, and I think they're very fortunate. The track's very quiet here as well. They didn't have a lot of horses blowing by them or coming at them the wrong way. That makes a big difference.
How's the order determined that they come out in?
Usually, I mean, you know, back in my day, it was always colts up front, fillies behind, for an obvious reasons. You don't want to come back with some extra ones.
But does age matter? Could you have 2-year-old colts in front?
They usually put a good lead horse up front. You're not going to have an inexperienced horse at the front of that group, right? I mean, you're usually going to have an older horse with experience that, you know, is rock solid. But yeah, usually the boys up the front and the girls behind.
Like the line leader at school. You got to know where you're going.
Exactly.
Andy?
Todd, we have Joseph O'Brien here. We just saw the Aidan O'Brien contingent go out and gallop, but he's here with 2 horses of his own. Joseph, do you and your dad ever team up at all when you're out here? Like, do your horses train with his, or do they do their own thing? What's the plan?
And yeah, usually we try to do our own thing. The horses have very different training schedules at home. We train in much different facilities, and when we come here, we do our own thing.
How do you feel about your horses? What did they do today, and what were your impressions?
They both jogged about a lap, did a little canter just to feel the dirt and have a look around, a couple of furlongs. They'll do a little bit more tomorrow. We might even leave them have a look at the gate, and we'll just try and keep them safe up to the run.
That's crazy. When you say you hacked a couple of furlongs, I mean, that means you're just cantering along softly. If you tried to do that with an American horse, I guarantee you it wouldn't go the same. I mean, how have they adjusted in terms of the traffic and everything like that?
Both actually pretty good. It's both of them their first time shipping to America, so they wouldn't have seen anything like this before, and they didn't have a pony or anything today. So they seem to have adjusted pretty well. So hopefully the next few days go smoothly, and we get a good run at the weekend.
While I have you here, I have to ask: do you have a favorite restaurant here in Lexington?
Oh man, I don't spend enough time here to have a favorite restaurant. Maybe by the end of the week I might.
All right, thank you so much, Joseph. Best of luck.
Thanks, Andy. Thank you.
I mean, always just so charming, the whole family, and
right.
The way they handle the media. And there's a lot of focus on them wherever they go.
Does he ever age, young Joseph?
Yeah, it's true.
Neither one of them age, though. I mean, it's remarkable.
And so they have the track to themselves almost here. It looks like you said, Simon, it's very, very quiet.
I think they got out early, ahead of everybody. So, yeah, I mean, he's the only person to ride a Breeders' Cup. No. Take that back. He's the second person to ride and train a Breeders' Cup winner, right? Freddie Head. Goldacova.
Their horses are so used to traveling, though. You can see, you know, they're all such professionals in this new environment. They're used to getting on a van having to compete all the time, this time getting on a plane, but many of them have already been flown, you know, one place or the next coming out here, and just quickly getting accustomed to new circumstances. So they're all behaving really well so far here today. And they've got a lot of grounds here at Keeneland, whether they're walking to the training track, going for a walk there, coming up to the main track, going for a gallop there. There's a lot to take in, and to Scott's point, it's a little bit more of a relaxed environment than you might get at a Del Mar, say, where you don't have as much space to go out and just experience kind of being a horse in addition to your routine training.
I mean, you think this is impressive? I mean, this is nothing. You want to see a morning at Ballydoyle. I mean, it's you know, 50, 60, 70.
But as far as replicating their natural environs, Keeneland comes as close as any other racetrack in America they could find. This is a little bit closer to their natural environment, would you say?
There's no question. The majority of North American racetracks are metropolitan racetracks, right?
Yes,
They're placed in a city. I mean, Gulfstream, 30 minutes from Miami, Santa Anita, 40 minutes from LA, New York, of course. And that's not a natural environment. You're taking animals and you're plunking them right in the middle of a metropolis. Here, we're in horse country. This is like a Newmarket, like a Chantilly, that type of feel. And along with the weather and the climate at this time of year, I think it makes it very comfortable, very palatable for these horses. But yeah, I mean, a morning at Ballydoyle, it's very hard to get access there. But if you just go on Google, search it up, there's some great features on Aidan O'Brien there. And to Christina's point, they're used to traveling. I think a lot of people don't realize, you know, when they run at Royal Ascot, it's a day trip. They take a plane over, plane back. Aidan, the same thing. He doesn't stay there overnight at Royal Ascot. He's back and forth on a plane each and every day.
22-time Irish champion flat trainer. When looking at his year this year, 162 starts, 13 wins in the Breeders' Cup, that is, overall. Won the Epsom Derby 8 times, Irish Derby 14 times, essentially passing his own records each and every year. We talk about all the compelling stories coming into the Breeders' Cup, and in the Big Ass Fans Breeders' Cup Mile, Cody's Wish is quite a story, and many racing fans are familiar with the story behind this name, but if you're not, Gabby Godet is going to tell us more.
Well, there are some incredible stories in the sport of horse racing, but I think one that is almost like a fairy tale is the story with regard to Cody's Wish. And here with Cody's dad, Kelly, and his little sister, Kylie, and Cody, of course, is joining us here today. Kelly, can you put this into words, what has gone on over the course of the past couple of years here?
To be honest, no. It's just... the one word that I told somebody the other day, asked me how I felt, and I said just numb. It's you know, it's hard to imagine 4 years ago when this happened, when the horse came up to Cody, that we'd be sitting here doing this right now, and you know, just how everybody's got caught up in it, and how special it means and to everyone, and especially, you know, of course us, but it's really inspired Cody. Just put a spark in his heart and stuff. You know, I really realized the connection when back in 2020 when we took Cody to meet the horse. He was going through some depression, and you know, I didn't know if they would have that same interaction, but Cody's Wish knew who he was and pulled him out of that, and he's been good to go ever since.
How passionate is Cody about horse racing and Cody's Wish in general?
He's very passionate, especially with Cody's Wish. He was up most of the night looking forward to coming here to watch him work out, and we was too. This was one of the things we wasn't going to miss here, you know, with this experience. But you know, his room, we've got pictures of the horse and all over his room. He keeps up with everything, and just all the stories and pictures, and he don't miss much on it.
Where will you guys be, and what's the day kind of looking like for Breeders' Cup Day?
We'll be here Friday and Saturday. I'm not sure where we'll be at, but we're going to be front and center, and nobody's going to cheer any louder than we are. I promise you that. So if you're around me, bring earplugs.
And Kylie, if you're okay, you don't have to be camera shy, but how exciting is this for you and your family and your brother?
I really like it.
Do you like the horses too?
Yeah.
How do you feel about Cody's Wish?
He's very soft. yet.
Oh, have you got to pet him recently?
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. And this is just the opportunity of a lifetime, really. And such a phenomenal story, guys. I actually had the privilege of interviewing the team last year at Keeneland, and just to see what has happened over the course of the past year is truly such a fairy tale.
And great credit to Godolphin for what they've done with the family of Cody and the naming of this horse, Cody's Wish. We are absolutely going to be rooting for Cody's Wish on Saturday in the Big Ass Fans Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. Back into the action on the racetrack. Cave Rock is in from California, a 4-5 morning line favorite for the FanDuel Breeders' Cup Juvenile.
Should be. I mean, line's right on with him. He comes in with the best credentials. He comes in with a trainer that's proven or excels in this division, and he's looked the part, and he's proven around 2 turns. And he crushed his stablemate National Treasure last time out. So now he takes on a new group. He's, dominated the West Coast. Christina now has to take on the best of the East.
Yeah, and I think the best of the East is Forte for Todd Pletcher. That to me looks like his main competition in this race. Forte does have the win over the track here at Keeneland, which is beneficial for any horse competing in the Breeders' Cup this year. But Cave Rock, the son of the late Arrogate, I mean, he's just been so devastating in his races. He's come in excellent condition in terms of his training. Loved his last work in Southern California. Bob Baffert keeps all of his horses at home for their final works before he ships anywhere. That's very much a part of his program. And the reason he does that, I've talked to him about a little bit in the past, is he feels like sometimes the track you get on race day isn't always the track you're training over in the morning. Sometimes it's a little faster, sometimes it's different. So his point is, I don't know how they're going to work over the track in the mornings, because it might not be the same track that we're running on in the afternoons. Whether you get a good work or a bad work in that final work locally, are you really going to scratch? Are you going to change your plan at that point? He likes to keep everything under control in his own environment for as long as possible, and then he's usually on that last flight out of California.
I would agree with that. When I was training way back, I adopted that same policy, and I think when you add in California to the mix, there is usually very little doubt that you're going to get bad weather. You might fly halfway across country, have a work plan, and then the heavens open, and then you're really in a switch. So I like that plan, and look how successful it's been.
The Breeders' Cup brings together the biggest stars in thoroughbred racing, but also attracts a number of celebrities in the trophy presentations. And one of the biggest celebrities out here on Future Stars Friday, presenting the trophy for the FanDuel Breeders' Cup Juvenile, is Simon Bray.
You're welcome.
Wow.
America, yeah.
You were tapped
Have you worked
for
on your
that one?
speech?
Yes, yeah. Oh, I've got a speech. Yeah.
Oh, be careful with that microphone.
Yeah, I got a speech.
Hot mic.
Yep. NBC, you better allot some time.
Andy's got a microphone. What's she going to do with that?
Todd, I'm here with Roger Atfield. We just saw Shirl Spite pass us. Roger, what are your thoughts on Shirl Spite this morning, and when did you ship in?
Well, he shipped in. He got in here about 7 o'clock yesterday evening. He worked on Sunday very, very well, and they both ate up last night. And I brought him out to jog a couple of miles this morning and walk around the paddock, just have an easy day, and then they start training properly tomorrow.
Now, this horse has an affinity for Keeneland. He's been very successful at this track before. Do you find that he knows when he's back here? I mean, do you see a change in his attitude at all?
Not really, no. I mean, obviously he knows where he is, but he's a very easy horse. He takes everything in his stride pretty well, this horse.
Well, it's great to see you again, Mr. Atfield. And by the way, he is on Frosty, who we used for TVG back in the spring. So it's very nice to be reunited with our good old friend Frosty and Mr. Atfield, Todd.
I thought that horse looked familiar. Thank you for jogging my memory.
Frosty didn't make the transition from TVG to FanDuel TV. poor thing.
Some of us are still working on it.
Yeah.
Shirl Spite, and as pointed out by Andy, that big win here in the Maker's Mark Mile at the spring meet this year. There's a look at Shirl Spite right now.
Looks nice out there in the jog. Very good energy. Looks like shipped in well. And yes, to Andy's point, does like the track in here. And we'll see how Shirl Spite ends up. The last race in the Woodbine Mile was a 4th place effort behind Modern Games. Modern Games, a little subpar effort over ground he didn't like most recently. But if Modern Games comes back with the same race that we saw at Woodbine, he defeated this horse by 7 lengths.
Yeah, and that was a 1-turn mile. I think he might be better around the 2 turns he gets here. He's going to be a number. But again, it's that Charlie Fipke family that just keeps throwing runners after runners after runners.
Along the rail, watching the action is Michelle Yu.
Thanks, Todd. I'm standing by. An extremely excited Mike McCarthy. Reunited, and it feels so good, my friend.
Thanks for having me.
I didn't get to catch up with you yesterday. How's your trip been?
Yeah, everybody's shipped in good order. Trip's been great so far.
You get to use those heaters yet?
Didn't bring them.
All right, looked at the weather. I get it. So Cece's out right now. What are you seeing from her?
Just came up here, jogged for this veterinary crew that we have here. Every horse that's in the Breeders' Cup needs to come by and jog for the veterinary crew. Seems like she's did that handle nice. She's backtracking now, back up to the 8th pole. She'll go out from the wire back over here to the 6th. Kind of always been in every day, and she'll do that a couple times this week.
Is it harder leading up to the Breeders' Cup, or is it these last 3 or 4 days that are more nerve-wracking?
Yeah, I always say that I think, I just wish that everybody gets the starting gate in as best order as possible, and horses sorted out on the racetrack. You work awfully hard throughout the course of the year to get to a day like Friday or Saturday, and to come so close and not be able to kind of line up in the gate is tough. So you're just hoping that, as I said, everything goes right this week and let the chips fall as they may.
Can I ask who's riding, Cece?
Amelia Green. She's been nice enough to kind of get on her at Saratoga, get on her at Oaklawn Park when she won the Apple Blossom, and a couple times in between. So they know each other well.
Always nice to have someone that's familiar with your horse going into a big day. We had the draw yesterday. You drew post position 4. I feel like she runs really well mid-pack. Were you happy with her barrier draw?
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Obviously, we drawn 4 last year. It's much smaller field than this year, but we're happy with where we're drawn.
Also, I know Stella's watching. Do you want to say hi?
Stella's actually in midair right now. She'll be here a little later. But yeah, it'd be nice to have the family here this week.
All right, thanks for the time, Michael.
Thank you.
Guys?
We were talking about the importance of exercise riders. The name Amelia Green keeps showing up on big horses. We rank jockeys as some of the best. Is there, just known throughout the industry, these are the top 10 exercise riders out there, and they get to work with the big horses?
Oh, for sure, and that's usually they end up at the best stables because they can afford the better wages, they get on the better horses, and it's kind of a snowball effect. The situation they have there with Amelia Green is something that I was familiar with, and I think assistants that work for big barns do the same thing. There's a connection there, right? So Mike McCarthy worked for Todd Pletcher. He can tap into his staff there and help him out. And it goes the other way. When Todd comes to California, when I ran StarTech in the Kentucky Derby, I didn't take my exercise rider. I used Bill Mott's assistant, Ralph Nix, and then Bill shipped horses out to California. It's a couple of times he came into my barn. And it's always nice to know because the programs are similar. If you forget something, if you need something, it's probably there in Todd's barn. You don't have to panic about it, and vice versa.
Joaquin?
Todd, back here on Rice Road, we have the Queen's Plate winner right behind us. This is Moira with her trainer and Kevin Attard. Hey, Kevin, she's coming off a disqualification in her most recent start. We'll get to that in a moment, but she hit the track earlier today, 8 o'clock. What'd she do today?
Yeah, we just went out for a bit of a mile jog and probably a 1.25 mile gallop. Did well. She seems to have settled in nicely from the trip up north, so I'm happy with the way she shipped.
So what happened at her most recent start? She was lugging into the stretch. Take me through that stretch run. What happened?
Yeah, I just think he had a lot of horse. He was kind of looking for some space to kind of get to, and it just never transpired. He kind of darted to the inside. I don't think he's seen that horse kind of, clear yet, and just kind of cut off the Chad Brown filly there. So unfortunately, the number was taken down, but she ran a great race. She, we needed obviously to kind of give her a bit of a test in open company, and she handled it well.
Looking at her work tab on the synthetic over at Woodbine, she has some pretty fast works. Is that normal for her in the morning?
No, actually, she's kind of been working a little quicker than she normally does, but she's been doing it really easily, so she's coming up to the race in good order.
How'd you line up Frankie Dettori with this mount?
Donato Lanny kind of orchestrated that, so you have to ask him that question. I'm happy to have him as a pilot.
All right, we appreciate the time. Good luck in the Breeders' Cup.
Thank you very much.
And Scott, how cool is this? We have the Kentucky Derby winner, the Kentucky Oaks winner on the card this year, and also the Queen's Plate winner running on the card this year at the Breeders' Cup as well.
As it should be, it is the World Championships, the Breeders' Cup here at Keeneland Racecourse. And I am very happy to be joined by Katie LaMonica of Godolphin to talk about TIA, the Thoroughbred Industry Employee Awards, and just a few weeks removed from the TIA Awards here at Keeneland Racecourse once again. How would you sum up the 2022 renewal of the TIA Awards?
It was another special ceremony. We recognized and rewarded 19 individuals this time across 7 categories. And we did it right here at Keeneland, and they came in and had an amazing 48 hours in the bluegrass, and it just was very, very special.
How much of a passion is this for you and for Godolphin, and seeing the appreciation of these, not only the employees, but their employers coming out here?
There's really no feeling like it. This program is in 5 countries. Godolphin sponsors this in 5 countries, and the ability to reward and recognize the hardworking staff in our industry is the most special thing we do all year.
How important is it for Godolphin to continue this tradition and continue to build upon it?
Very important. We put, like I said, it's in 5 countries, and we spend quite a bit of time and energy on it. We have wonderful partners. The Breeders' Cup is a partner, the Jockey Club, the HBPA, TOBA, and we also have local category sponsors that stepped up and became part of it as well. So everybody understands the importance of the human connection to the sport and recognizing those guys who, you know, make it work.
When does the process begin for the lead up to the 2023 TIA Awards?
So we'll open nominations next May and close them about mid-July. And so we will we'll start marketing the program again in the spring. But please just start thinking about, you know, who you would like to nominate for the program. Please visit tiea.org to look at all the categories. There's something for everybody on there.
Katie, we appreciate the hard work from you and your team in Godolphin, and especially the TIA Awards, and it's always a pleasure to see the bright smiles on all these finalists and eventual winners' faces.
Thank you very much.
Todd, Simon, Christina, it's a great time, and as Katie's mentioned, these are the unsung heroes. They are the ones that put in the hard work that we get to enjoy each and every day at these great races.
And those winners from this year were honored at an event that coincided with the fall meet here at Keeneland, so we got a chance to interview a few of them. They were honored in the winner's circle here. But as you've done a lot of work in promoting this award, you have to be nominated first, so they've got a deadline for that. And to me, that's what I love, is hearing a trainer maybe write a letter on behalf of one of their employees to get them nominated.
Yeah, as we say every year, anyone can nominate. You don't necessarily have to be the employer of the person that you're nominating. You can be a fellow coworker. You can be someone that has observed that individual from the outside. Maybe it's someone in another barn or in the main offices that you think is always so helpful and makes your job easier. Everybody can nominate. And they've also gone so far as to make the process so easy. You can do that online. You can handwrite it. You can call and leave a voicemail, and they will transcribe your nomination for you. Anybody can nominate. I was so pleased to see Felipe Mendoza win from Richard Mandela's barn this year. He's been with Richard for 30 years, and it was just wonderful to see him rewarded. And he is a very good handicapper himself. Maybe we ought to get Felipe.
Yeah, we got to get him on the set. Our thanks to Godolphin for a fantastic program. They also have a fantastic story, and Cody's wish going in the Big Ass Fans Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. We heard from Cody's dad and sister, and now Gabby Gaudet is with Cody.
Cody is hanging out here on the track waiting for Cody's wish to train, and I just wanted to show you guys a little bit more about how Cody can communicate with everybody. So on his glasses, there's a little sticker in between his eyes, and that sticker communicates with this device on the top of the iPad. It tracks his eye movement. There are buttons on the iPad, and he can move his eyes to those certain buttons to communicate whatever he wants to say to people. So we want to ask Cody. Cody, what do you want to say to us about Cody's wish and how excited you are for a Breeders' Cup this coming weekend? He's trying to find this button. It's hard to kind of line up a little bit.
Cody's wish. He wins for me.
Cody's wish does win for him. Thank you so much, Cody. And I was just talking to Leslie and Cody's father, Kelly, and he has his whole outfit already picked out. He just got this new hat, the trainer's cap for Breeders' Cup, and he also wanted to get a blue pinstriped suit for Saturday as well. So he has the whole get-up ready for Saturday. But apparently Cody's got a big sense of humor, and he also wants to tell us a joke. Cody, what you got?
What do you call a horse that doesn't lose a race?
That doesn't lose a race. What do you call a horse that doesn't lose a race?
Well, of course, that'd be Cody's wish.
I love it. Oh my gosh. We have ourselves a comedian here, guys.
Count your blessings each and every day, and the optimism of Cody and his love for that racehorse makes us all feel fortunate that we get to be in this amazing game, and the Breeders' Cup is just days away. Looking forward to seeing Cody's wish in the Big Ass Fans Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile as part of Championship Saturday. And this was Cody's wish out on the racetrack with Cody and his family watching. Here he is about to break away from the pony horse. But Cody's wish, accomplished in one-turn races, if you want to look at the record a little bit closer, has had a couple of good two-turn races, and the mile might be right there on the edge of that distance envelope.
Yeah, he's a bigger, kind of longer type of horse. Look at him. He's a son of Curlin out of the Tappet Mare Dance card. All of her wins were around two turns. Beautiful race mare for Godolphin. He's run two turns twice. One of those efforts was at the 1 1/8 at Saratoga. In his second career start, he would end up third that day. The subsequent start around two turns was at Tampa Bay on a return off a significant layoff, and he got defeated. He was defeated that day. He was second by a neck to Scalding, maybe just a little tired off the break. Simon, is this going to be the first time that Bill Mott sends him around two turns again since that defeat?
I think you can talk away both defeats. I think start number 2, sprint to a 1 1/8, and he, in the subsequent starts after that, he still didn't win. He was still learning the game. And to your point, I think the layoff might have come into play. You would think looking at him, two turns wouldn't be a problem. You would look at his pedigree. You would say two turns shouldn't be a problem. By Curlin out of a Tappet mare, out of a super race mare. So, again, typical Bill Mott profile here on the track. 4 white polos, regular bridled. He's got a figure 8 noseband, cross noseband there.
I think the pace is going to be pretty hot in the dirt mile this year. I mean, Gunite is a fairly quick horse. Laurel River is very fast for Bob Baffert, and I think he's improving right now. And Cyberknife electing to run in the dirt mile versus the classic is interesting because Cyberknife is a horse that has a high cruising speed and that can carry that, the 1 1/8, the 1 1/4. But as you back him up to a mile, I think Florence Shrew is going to be very aggressive. I think Cyberknife just goes out there and tries to take control of this race. If those horses hook up, Cody's Wish is in a great position from off the pace.
So back in 2015, when they first hosted the Breeders' Cup here at Keeneland, you did not have, as part of the spring and fall meet, 1 mile races on the main track. So they had to adjust this, and the thought was inside was the best. The inside post positions had an advantage. They made a few other adjustments. Do you think it is pronounced as far as post position here for the mile at Keeneland?
Yeah, I mean, I think if, the further you are to the inside, I think it's an advantage, sure, because, I mean, the run into the first turn is key too, right? If you're wide, you're going to get hung out wide. So, yeah, saving ground is key here. Yeah, you see him galloping. I thought
he looks a picture of health,
he does.
doesn't he?
He looks great. I didn't know for a while. I was confused there because the rider's got his irons so short. I thought, when he started off, I'm like, are we going to go and breeze here? But just that's the way he goes about his business. But, yeah, he listens to the rider. Pretty little horse. Does everything right. Looks like he's had a good education up to this point because he's got his head bowed and just perfect gentleman there for the exercise rider.
Cody's Wish on Saturday and the Big Ass Fans Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile on Friday. National Treasure is the other horse for trainer Bob Baffert, part of Future Stars Friday, and in one of the biggest and the most anticipated races of the day, the FanDuel Breeders' Cup Juvenile presented by Thoroughbred Aftercare Alliance. Simon, with Bob Baffert saying, don't forget about National Treasure, and he's looked great. You said, well, that's well and good, but you still have 5 lengths to make up on Cave Rock, the stablemate.
Yeah, that's what I see as, and they can make up that ground at this time of the year. We talked about horses developing, moving forward, but I think there's got to be a combination of both. I think he's got to move forward, and Cave Rock has got to regress, and then somehow they meet in the middle there.
I think you're right, and I don't think Cave Rock is showing any signs of regression right now, whether it be on paper or just in his, physical out there galloping. This horse looks great, though, and I just keep coming back to the fact that each and every week when I've been out at Santa Anita, Bob Baffert keeps wanting to talk about this horse. I get the feeling that Bob thinks he has so much ability, and he hasn't quite gotten the best of him yet. It might take until next year. It might be a little bit more time before he starts to really get the best out of this horse. But I think Bob thinks the talent is there.
Well, I know you said the most logical horse that could contend with Cave Rock is Todd Pletcher's Forte, but are we looking at the possibility of a Bob Baffert 1-2 finish in this race?
Oh, yeah.
Definitely.
We see it each and every day in Southern California. And again, stay tuned for the trophy presentation for this race.
Yes.
It's going to be a good one.
Yes. FanDuel TV celebrity Simon Bray presenting the trophy for the FanDuel Breeders' Cup Juvenile presented by Thoroughbred After Care Alliance. You're watching Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup presented by WinStar Farm and at Keeneland Racecourse. We'll have more of the preparations leading up to the Breeders' Cup in just a moment.
This is a Kentucky Thoroughbred. This is a Kentucky-built powerfoil industrial fan. Like a Thoroughbred, it too delivers unrivaled performance. And while they both run with purpose and pride, this one runs to keep your workforce feeling cool and comfortable. Powerfoil, the best-selling big fan in the world. BigFans.com. Exceptionally engineered.
At Calumet Farm, we're proud to offer proven stallions to fit every breeder's needs. With over 72 million in progeny winnings on dirt and turf, our diverse roster is producing the champions of today and tomorrow. Calumet Farm, a legacy reborn.
Looking to give your handicapping game a sharper focus? RaceLens is the most in-depth product in horse racing, with unique features found nowhere else. Customized PPs, summary and individual research, handicapping angles and back testing, true odds predictive analysis, and pace projection. With innovative analytics powered by data from Equibase, it will change the way you follow horse racing and take your game to the next level. RaceLens, bringing clarity to handicapping. Learn more at equibase.com/racelens.
Trade Storm to win the Rico Woodbine Mile.
She's going to do it. Simple Verse has won the Ledger.
Snake Neck Spear and Sheen Murphy get through and have won.
It's getting really tight. The star of the season, drawing line.
The purple cap, Kamiko the far side of him. Kamiko's won. The other midline, Mongostine has just won it with Mosse.
Ocean Road after going to Vegas. Ocean Road.
The best 2-year-old by legendary sire Quality Road.
Get back, $1.5 million.
Very, very impressive debut. Cantering home. Could not have been more impressive.
Coast to coast in the American Pharaoh. He's the real deal.
Undefeated and unchallenged at 2.
He's just too good. He wins the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. Corniche.
Corniche, the newest champion to Coolmore, America.
It's time to bet the race, and FanDuel Racing has entered the starting gate. Download the FanDuel Racing app, and you're off. It's super easy to use from the start. Make every moment more with tools to help you win on the inside. Watch out for great promos and easy deposits. And here comes fast payouts. It's super easy to use. It's fast payouts. It's super easy. There's no doubt about it. The best place to bet is FanDuel Racing.
New customers bet the Breeders' Cup and get up to $100 back if your horse doesn't win.
FanDuel TV's Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup is presented by WinStar Farm and by Keeneland.
And Tisnow is battling on the American Horse of the Year. New York winner, our heads are cut with the Farrell New Classic. On the outside,
Well, Tisnow is still the only two-time Breeders' Cup Classic winner, and Gabby Gaudette is going to be having a visit with Tisnow coming up a little bit later on the show when she makes her way out to Windstar Farm. But right now, we're in front of the stall of Tyler's Tribe. He is undefeated. He is a perfect 5 for 5, and he's going to be making his turf debut coming up on Future Stars Friday in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Sprint. Here's more on the emotional and courageous story on how the horse, Tyler's Tribe, got his name.
I'm Tyler's older brother.
And I'm Tyler's cousin.
We're part of Tyler's Tribe.
I'm Tyler's little brother. I'm part of Tyler's Tribe. I'm Tyler's cousin. I'm part of Tyler's Tribe. We are Tyler's Tribe!
I didn't have any aspirations of buying a horse. But I pulled up the videos and the photos of horses that are going to be in the sale, and I saw the horse who is now Tyler's Tribe. What I loved was his size, his conformation, but I really needed somebody a lot smarter than me, so I called Tim.
I saw the photo, I said, this horse don't look like no Iowa bred. Tyler's Tribe looks like a Kentucky bred. He was just outstanding. I ain't seen a horse like him in a long time.
He called me back. He goes, wow, you're right. This is quite a horse. And that day we agreed, yeah, let's try to buy this horse. A couple of days after I bought her, I turned to my wife, Polly, and I said, what do you think, Tyler's Tribe? She goes, wow, it'd be perfect because got a grandson, as you know, who was diagnosed with leukemia as a 6-year-old. He had some tough times.
Ring this bell 3 times well. It's told to clearly say, my treatment's done, this course is run, and I am on my way.
I've been through cancer for about 2.5 years, and I beat cancer.
He's the most resilient kid ever. In the beginning, we were in the hospital for almost 6 weeks. He had countless surgeries, and he took it with a smile, and it just kept on fighting and never gave up.
It's been a journey.
Yeah. It has.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely a day we've looked forward to.
And the tribe has been with him every part of the way.
His mother, my daughter, started a Facebook called Tyler's Tribe. We became big. It was amazing, the following, and that whole following has taken off now, and they come to the racetrack, and it's huge.
And it's all Tyler's Tribe. He's putting on another show tonight. Tyler's Tribe remains undefeated. Tyler's Tribe just cantering past the 16th pole.
The last race that I run him in, the Iowa Cradle, he needed to win that race and win impressive to come to Keeneland. And he is 5 for 5, so he's done everything more than we've asked him to do. He does it with ease every time.
Tyler loves having all those people, being with all those people at the racetrack. He understands that what it's all about, and he understands it's also about leukemia. He understands why we named it, understands the whole thing. And when we announced to the tribe that we're going to the Breeders' Cup, they said we'd never miss it. So we got a lot of people from Iowa coming to the Breeders' Cup.
Well, the bell ringing day for Tyler was very recently. That happened just 8 days ago on a Monday on October 24th. After that, after they got done at the hospital, all his family and friends went out for lunch. And the theme, Todd, that his family and friends were telling me when we went out for lunch after them is they're really just looking forward to Tyler just getting back to doing normal things. His last 24 months, nothing has been normal for Tyler, so much so that when I had a conversation with Tyler, what he was looking forward to most on bell ringing day just 8 days ago, a visit to the trampoline park. That's what he wanted to do after he rang the bell at the Stead Family Children's Hospital. He just wanted to go to the trampoline park. So looking forward to the 8-year-old Tyler just getting back to being a kid again, Todd.
He wanted to do one other thing, as you talked to his grandfather, Tom Lepick, yesterday at the post draw. He wanted to skip school this week. He wanted to be with Grandpa the entire week. Grandpa said, no, not until Friday. You can come down from Iowa.
Wow, they made him stay in school?
Yeah, but he'll be down here. He said you'll have plenty of fun. So looking forward to Tyler being here on site at Keeneland. Tom Lepick also said something. He referenced the workouts that Tyler's Tribe has had. Even the camp agrees with what we saw back on October 15th. It wasn't the greatest introduction to the turf, but what Tom pointed out was he wasn't used to seeing the cones on the grass. One, he was on a new surface. He wasn't used to the cones, and so they felt when he came back 2 weeks later, he kind of understood what they were doing out there, was used to what he was going to see, and it was a better workout. We put these workouts side by side. Do you guys agree?
I think so. Slightly better on the most recent work. He was lost in space, right, in his first workout here. I think he was struggling with the new environment. He didn't really switch leads. Freeze it right here if we can. And you can see, maybe it was just a little closer here. He had his ears pricked coming around there. He's kind of looking at things, getting a little bit lost here. Kind of the same thing. He did the lead switch. Looks fairly similar to the first work, but I think slightly better. I think there's a couple of things in play here. Personally, I think, having listened to some of the connections, if he'd worked in company, a lot of times you would work a horse in company in a situation like this, so they have a lead around there. But I think he gets very aggressive. If you work this horse in company, I think all of us would be sitting up here saying he looked a little better. He's not only in a new environment, he's out there all by himself. I think there's a lot to that. As far as being able to handle the grass, I don't know. I mean, the pedigree's there. He's out of a mare. She didn't win on the grass, but she had 4 tries. She was second and third. And the surprising thing to me, I look up the statistics on Sharp Azteca. In his early career as a stallion, he's only 4 for 19 with turf sprinters. He's got off to a good start. They've run well. I think you got to be fast. I think more than anything, it's the lack of. I think he lacks a little bit of talent and class against some of these better and faster horses.
It's a lack of options as well. I mean, he definitely, to Simon's point, looked a little bit better in the work subsequent to the initial step onto the turf course. But you know he's a fast horse. You know he is undefeated and he has some serious class about him. But as you enter the Breeders' Cup as a 2-year-old, his options are to either sprint on the turf or to take on the K-Rocks and the Fortes going 2 turns on the main track. So they're kind of choosing between the lesser of 2 evils here. We know he's good around 1 turn. We know he's fast. Let's stick with the turf. And I think it's definitely the right move in terms of those 2 options as races for him. Oftentimes, horses will run their best race the first time over a new surface. So they have that, hopefully, in their corner as well.
Tyler's Tribe, a part of Future Stars Friday. When it comes to stars in the history of the Breeders' Cup, Tisnow looms over so many. The only horse to ever win the Longines Breeders' Cup Classic back-to-back. We will visit him at WinStar when we return.
On FanDuel Casino, we make it easy to turn your site credit into real money. Unlike other casinos who make you wager your site credit over and over before you can withdraw it, we play fair. Just play through it once and you keep what you win. Turning all your site credit into real cash is that simple. Plus, you'll get paid your way, quickly and securely. Come see why FanDuel Casino promotions give you so much more than other online casinos. Join FanDuel Casino and play it again with up to $1,000 back if you're down on your first day.
Hey, big man. Oh, hey. Dave told me you got some kind of great system for betting that really works.
It's true.
What is it? Is it like home dogs? No. It's bird mascots.
No, I just use FanDuel's responsible gaming tools like time and spending limits to manage my play.
That's the system.
Hasn't failed me yet.
Cool. You know what, man? I'm just going to keep this between you and me.
It's not a secret, Bob.
Every bettor has a system. Make FanDuel's responsible gaming tools a key part of yours. It's more fun that way.
Code of Honor, multiple Grade 1 winner and 6-time graded stakes winner.
including the Grade 1 Travers, the Grade 1 Jockey Club Gold Cup, the Grade 2 Fountain of Youth. He was a debut winner at 2 in Saratoga, following up with a gutsy performance, running second in the Grade 1 Champagne Stakes. Son of a champion out of a graded stakes winner, with an outstanding physical to match. Code of Honor, standing at Lane's End.
Chase the day with Day Chaser Cocktails, the official ready-to-drink canned cocktail of Breeders' Cup.
Welcome back here to Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup. I'm standing outside the stall of Pax a Wallop, who will go postward in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf. And if you're like me and you've tried to voice text his name at any point, you'll see it's spelled wrong. Wallop is generally W-A-L-L-O-P, but you see Pax a Wallop here is W-A-H-L-O-P. And I asked his owner, Tim Cohen, where'd the name come from? And he said he's actually named after a business partner of his father's named Tim Wall. So that's where the name comes from and why the spelling looks a little different than you're used to. I'm with his trainer now, Jeff Mullins. Jeff, you opted to ship out a little bit earlier. Are you happy with the decision that you made?
I mean, we only shipped a day earlier than any of the other horses, and that was just because I didn't want the horse to have 2 days off from training. So we got our final work in on Friday at home on the grass, and he shipped the following day, and then he got here and got to train the next day. So it was more just to kind of keep the horse on schedule than anything.
It seems like a lot to ask of a horse to ship across the country, and we've been talking about it, but especially for a 2-year-old. How has he handled it mentally?
He handles it very well for a 2-year-old. I mean, like Mike always says, he says, man, you got to keep reminding me this is a 2-year-old. He keeps thinking he's a 3-year-old, and he's grown so much since we purchased him at the sale, and what a nice horse to be around.
You said he's grown so much. Is that both physically and mentally?
Yeah, I mean, physically he's grown a really lot, but mentally he's starting to get a little bit cocky. He's starting to get a little bit smarter than he should be, but no, he knows his job. He loves to train, and one thing about him, when you could go train him 5 miles, he wouldn't care. He loves it. So nice horse to train, nice horse to be around.
Do you feel like he gets overlooked because anytime we're talking grass, it's just Euro, Euro, Euro?
Well, I think so. I mean, I think that's just nature of the beast, but as far as 2-year-olds go, I'm not sure I've ever had a grass horse like this.
Appreciate the time, Jeff.
Thank you.
He talked about him being a little bit cocky, guys. When we watched him back at Santa Anita, when he's getting hot walked around, he will grab his lead line and just take himself around the toe ring.
And in the Zuma Beach, absolutely dominated. Prior to that, the Del Mar Juvenile Turf. I mean, ever since they put this horse on the grass, Pax a Wallop has been a different horse.
And surprisingly, excuse me, sorry, when you look at his pedigrees by Creative Course, who never went on the grass, but again, another horse, I mean, this is the Giants Causeway influence, right? Another sire who's proven that he can throw turf runners.
Wayne Catalano is very confident in, and the winner is cleverly named by Oscar Performance in the same race as Pax a Wallop, the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf on Future Stars Friday. This is a live look at, and the winner is, out here on the main track at Keeneland.
He's one of the more striking horses that you're going to see this week as well. Just a beautiful son of Oscar Performance out of a Scat Daddy mare. Loves Keeneland. He's run here twice. He's won on both occasions. Broke his maiden here first time out going 5.5 furlongs. They thought about sending him to Royal Ascot. Came back in a couple of subsequent starts. I thought in the With Anticipation, the good turf course just looked like it wasn't really to his liking. He just didn't have the same stride. Likes it firm. Got a firm course in the Bourbon. Looks like with the weather, he is going to get the course that he wants again this weekend.
Big fan of this horse. I mean, if someone's asking me, what does a turf horse look like? I'm playing him a clip of this horse here, the way he moves, the way he looks. I mean, look, you can see he's got a little higher knee action, and lead change perfect there, head bow, great individual. And the thing about him with his pedigree, he's only going to get better as he gets older.
And the winner is preparing for Future Stars Friday and the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf. It was more than 20 years ago at one of the first Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup shows. I was not on this desk. I was a reporter out in California as the Breeders' Cup was going to be held at Belmont Park. I was on the backside at Santa Anita waiting for Tisnow to come out and put in his final work before he attempted to defend his title in the Longines Breeders' Cup Disc Classic. And we waited, and we waited, and we waited. about 45 minutes before he decided he wanted to go out and have that final workout. He was one of the most unique champions we've had in Breeders' Cup history, but his win in the Breeders' Cup Classic more than 20 years ago to become only horse to defend his title in the Breeders' Cup Classic was under circumstances we will never see again. Here's a look back at those who were part of one of the most significant moments in Longines Breeders' Cup Classic history.
The American Horse of the Year and the ARC winner are heads apart with a furlong to go in the Classic. On the outside, Saki. Tisnow fights on. Here's the wire. Desperately close.
The horse had run in the Woodward 3 days before 9/11 on the 8th. And I was at Santa Anita on the morning of the 11th, and I was walking down to the racetrack, and a friend of mine stopped me and said, "Jay, come in here and look at the television."
It almost goes without saying, but we'll say it anyway. This is not going to be a normal broadcast day at TVG.
The horse was still in New York. Both his groom and his exercise boy stayed with him. He wound up staying for about 11 or 12 days and finally got a flight out of New Jersey.
About 7 days before the Breeders' Cup, I was scheduled to work Tisnow at Santa Anita. Jay wanted an extra special work, but he had other ideas. He didn't want to go.
He got on the track, and all of a sudden he started propping.
He was very strong-minded, very strong-willed horse. And if he didn't want to do something, you weren't going to force him to do it.
I said, "This doesn't look good. I think we're going to maybe have to cancel everything." He's supposed to fly out 2 days later.
It took me about 40 minutes to actually convince him that it was time to do some work. But when he did go, he went beautifully. He's quirky, but he's fast.
The first day there on the racetrack, he wasn't good again. But then, lo and behold, the following days, he just turned it around. He was like he'd been as a 3-year-old.
We just had to make sure that the Tisnow was going to show up on Breeders' Cup Day.
God bless America.
The image that I will never forget is the jockeys were all asked to walk out onto the turf course, and we turned around and looked at the grandstand. Up on the roof, the military presence was, I was awestruck.
Sweet home.
Tisnow was racing for America.
And the horse is on the track for the Breeders' Cup Classic. Tisnow, the reigning horse of the year, sidelined with a back injury, kept him in the barn for 6 months. Third in both races since his return.
He broke well, and he got a great position.
They're off!
It pretty well went according to plan until about the 3/16 pole.
Aptitude is taken wide by Gander, and the field turns for home.
I heard a horse ranging up on the outside of me. I gave one quick little glance, and I saw those blue Godolphin colors.
Here comes the ARC winner, Saki, and he storms to the lead.
Saki looked like he had his measure at that point.
I went ahead and I put the stick in my left hand, and I tapped him once. I didn't hit him hard. I just tapped him, and he responded favorably.
The furlong to go in the Classic. On the outside, Saki. Tisnow fights on. Here's the wire. Desperately close. Tisnow wins it for America.
It was simply a day I will never forget. It was so exciting, and Tom Durkin yells, "And Tisnow wins it for America." The place went ballistic.
Immediately after, I was really happy for Tisnow, because he'd had a tough year. He was the horse of a lifetime.
The emotions were palpable. I had the privilege to eventually be at that Breeders' Cup Classic, and it will stay with me all of my days. Tisnow was pensioned about 2 years ago. It was this year, in March, that he celebrated his 25th birthday, and we get to see him right now. He still resides out at Windstar Farm. Elliott Walden and his crew giving him a prominent place out there. He's meant so much to so many racing fans. He has defined what the Breeders' Cup World Championships are about. And here he is, Gabby Gaudet. You're standing by there, remarkable at the age of 25. Tisnow.
Oh my gosh, I can't tell you how excited I am as Elliott Walden is giving him a mint. It's apparently, oh, we dropped one. It's his favorite treat. If you don't mind, I'm going to give him a mint as well. He has been standing so patiently for you to throw to us, Todd. Oh my gosh. Are they all this patient, or is he just this special?
Well, they all have personalities, Gabby. You know, some are more active than others. He's a pro. He's been here a long time. You know, he's seen it all. He's done it all. He just knows he's an extremely smart horse. In the old stallion barn, we used to have some concrete that was every 20 feet. He would step over that concrete. He would never put his foot down on that concrete. So he'd take his steps so he could step over the concrete. That's how smart he is.
What has Tisnow meant to Windstar? Obviously a cornerstone stallion, but can you speak to that a little bit?
Sure. I mean, you know, Tisnow and Distorted Humor really got the farm off the mark, and then Speightstown came along. But, you know, to have Folklore in his first crop, win the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies, really got him going, and he's just been an instrumental stallion. He's given us Colonel John. He's now given us broodmares that do really, really well. He's a great broodmare sire. He's just a gift that keeps giving, and you know, he's retired now.
What does he do in retirement?
What does he do in retirement? Well, he sleeps, and he's in the same stall that he was in when he was breeding, and we've got him in the main barn here, and he just gets to go out on some grass, and he just gets to take life easy. He deserves that.
He definitely deserves that. Does he get a lot of fan mail? Are people still kind of sending in that fan mail?
Yes, they are. In fact, there's a lady in Nebraska named Shannon Redmond that has a gift for him at Kroger that Larry's got to go pick up later today for Breeders' Cup week. So he knows he's a ham. He knows the camera.
One of the most exciting, I don't even know if exciting is the right adjective to use because of the moment in time that it happened when he won his second Breeders' Cup Classic. Elliott, were you at the track when he did win that?
Yes, I was in New York, and it was an incredible feeling. You know, it's one of the great race calls of all time when Tom Durkin said Tisnow wins it for America. And you know, I think that with everything that went on that year, it was almost like God's gift to Americans, and to let him know that he's still in charge, and that even though you know, bad things can happen, you know, you can still go on, and it was a great moment.
We come together in this sport of horse racing. He is just. He's big. He's a big boy. Just to give our viewers some perspective, how big is he, and his weight as well?
Well, in his prime, he was just close to 1,500 pounds. Now he's 25 years old now, and so he's lost a little bit. He's lost a little of his top line. You can see he's fairly hairy, so he knows winter's coming. And you know, he's always one to kind of get his hair soon. Speightstown's the same way. They you know, horses grow hair differently, but he always gets his hair coat in a little sooner than others, and he's just doing great. He's happy in retirement, and gets treated the same way as he did when he was breeding 150 mares a year.
Can I ask Larry one quick question? Sure. Where is he? Larry, I know you know Tisnow so well. Can you just kind of describe him and his temperament and his personality for our viewers? Because I know so many people love him and they wish that they were here to see him, and a lot of people won't ever get that opportunity.
Yeah, he's always been just a good, smart horse. Easy to take care of. You know, he he was just really smart and kind. You know, one of the first years we had him, a girl got stung by a bee right next to him, and he played off of me. I just stood there, and he just stood there with me because he knew he was feeding off of me. If I was calm, he knew everything was all right. He just kind of fed that way.
You take care of him and your staff every single day?
Yes. Yep. Like Elliot was saying, in his retirement, he kind of gets to do what he wants to. We don't need him as much now. You know, he doesn't need to breed a mare, or breeders come to look at him. So if he wants to stay out a little bit extra, he can stay out a little bit extra.
Oh, such an amazing opportunity. Larry, thank you so much. And just to get another quick shot here of Tisnow. Guys, you might not see me for the rest of the day. This is incredible, Todd. We are so lucky to be in the presence of horses like this.
I mean, you can't help but get emotional. The reverence that everyone, when they talk about Tisnow, that's from fans to everyone who has worked with him. That is one of the best scenes we have had on Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup. Tisnow, back-to-back, the only horse ever to do it in the Longines Breeders' Cup Classic. And it's these connections to these horses, and as time goes on, how much stronger it gets, because every time you think of Tisnow, it takes you back to that particular moment in time, like a great song, like a great piece of art. It is very personal, and these racehorses and our experiences with them are deeply personal.
Yeah, and I think a part of that story, and we featured we touched on it in that feature there, is Jay Robbins. He was responsible for Tisnow. And I think what makes it so compelling, or more compelling, is the fact that Jay Robbins was a trainer that had 12 horses. The chance of him getting a horse like this, if you're honest, was 1 in a million. I mean, for anybody. But I think it's a little different than if it came out of a mega stable. You know, it makes the whole story more complete.
We thank WinStar Farm for giving us that amazing access to one of the greatest we've ever seen in the Breeders' Cup. That is Tisnow. It was that Breeders' Cup as well that Ireland had themselves a really good day. And let's stay with that theme as we go to Rishi Prasad.
Yes, of course, and one of the most famous faces from Ireland alongside me, Aidan O'Brien, arrived last night. Aidan, have you settled in before we ask about the horses?
Yeah, Richie, everything good, thanks. We got in about 10:30, 11, but no, everything good. Delighted to be here this morning.
And what was the first report on your 7 horses that are competing in the Breeders' Cup?
Yeah, the lads have been very happy with them. Pat has been happy with everybody since they arrived, and today they did their first canter on the track, and all seem to be in good form.
I'm just going to spin through a few of them just to get a little bit more on them and how they've come over and how they're settling in. What you think of their chances? And I'll go to the turf first of all. And of course you've got Broome, who's got that good run in the race last year behind him. Stone Age in there as well. How do you see their chances against the field this year? Yeah,
Broome is in good form. We've been looking forward to bringing him back since last year. He was second in a Breeders' Cup race last year. His runs through the year have been good. He handles soft ground, but we always think he's best on good ground or better. He's a nice draw. His Broome's problem a little bit, sometimes he's a little bit slow to break, and he misses the beat 2 or 3 lengths, and that puts him on the back foot in his races. If he can come out, we've done plenty with him to try and get him to break, but if he can break, it's going to make a big difference to him. He's in very good form, and we're looking forward to seeing him run.
He had the field on the stretch last year, and that run in the Hardwick at Royal Ascot as well was a top-class effort. If he can repeat those 2 runs, he's right in the mix.
He is, yeah, absolutely, and he's in great form, and he's fit. Everything has went well since the last day, and like what you said, if he comes back to that form, he's going to be right there.
What about the old warrior, Order of Australia, won the race 2 years ago? How does he compare in terms of his preparation and the level of form for this year?
Yeah, no, everything has been I suppose, guided towards this race all year. He got an injury last year in Keeneland, and that set him back. But every run this year, obviously he was doing his best every day, but everything was gearing up towards here. We're very happy with his last run. His work has got very intense at home. And he's taken it very well, and we think he has progressed since Keeneland. So we're looking forward to seeing him run also.
He knows his way around here. He's in the mile. You got 2 in the Filly and Mare Turf, and of course one of those is the Oaks winner, Tuesday, who's had a fabulous season, and Toy in there as well. I mean, how is Tuesday? I mean, it's still fresh and buzzing at this time of the season?
Yeah, she's very well. She ran well the last day, considering the ground was very heavy and she had a bad draw, and Wayne rode her and gave a very good ride, and because of where she was drawn, I suppose he had to go forward, and she got a nice position, but by doing that on the bad ground, it probably took its toll late. Her work intensity has increased as well, and we think and feel that she has came forward with that too. We think nice ground will suit her around here. She's a nice draw. She's a filly who's third in the Guineas, so we're looking forward to seeing her run also.
One of the races that I was surprised you haven't won yet was the filly's Juvenile Turf, but you've got Meditate in the race this time, and she's got some high-class form, as we know. She ran in the Cheveley Park last time over 6. Do you think a mile is her trip, or a mile here is her trip?
Yeah, it will be interesting. We're not sure. She's obviously ran in all the top-level races. We gave her every chance every single day to back out of coming here, and she didn't. Her coat is very tight, and she's in very good form, and that's why she's here. We're going to find out a lot about her, looking towards next year, about the trip. She's a quick breaker, really. So it will be interesting. She's by none and ever, which obviously has been sensational this year with all his 2-year-olds. So it's going to be interesting. She's from, I think, an Aga Khan pedigree with Dalakani mare. So we feel that none and ever's out of those stamina pedigrees might get a mile or a bit further. So it will be interesting.
What about Victoria Road, who seems to have hit his stride late on in the season, is improving with every start?
A very unusual horse by Saxon Warrior. He's the 3rd group winner from Saxon Warrior this year. We started him at 5 and 6, which his pedigree suggested that he would be from a very fast stam line, but it's only when we stepped him up in trip we start seeing the best of him. Maybe it's Deep Impact. Saxon Warrior is by Deep Impact, and he's stretched all the way out to 2 miles. So he was very good the last day in Shanty, being ridden very patiently, came from the back, and it's a hard thing to do, but he did it, and we're looking forward to seeing him run now.
You're a veteran of the Breeders' Cup. I hate to use the word because you're still so young, but you are a veteran of the Breeders' Cup. When you turn up here and you see all the activity, horses about, the same faces, a lot of the same faces, but 1 or 2 new ones, I mean, is the buzz still as exciting as it was when you first came?
No, absolutely, and it is competitive, and that's why getting beat can be turned into a positive, because when you get beat, it makes you more determined for the next day, and you learn a lot in defeat as well. And everybody is here, and you learn what everybody is doing, and if you're missing a beat or you're behind the curve a little bit, you will learn about that and pick it up and move on. But no, it's great. Like, obviously we look forward to it every year.
Aidan, I really appreciate the time. Thank you so much. As he says, you learn from defeat, although in fairness this man doesn't get defeated that often. Aidan, thank you very much. We'll head out and join Joaquin.
Hey Richard, we have another Grade 1 winner right behind us. We introduced you to the Kentucky Derby winner, Rich Strike, earlier on this week. We introduced you to the Queen's Plate winner and Moira just a little bit earlier on in the show. And now Secret Oath, the Kentucky Oaks winner this year for the Hall of Famer Dwayne Lucas, has vanned over from Churchill Downs and arrived here at Keeneland Racecourse early this morning. And here's a good look at the Kentucky Oaks winner, Secret Oath. She drew post position number 3 yesterday at Rupp Arena in the Breeders' Cup Distaff. She drew post 3 in a field of 8 for the Breeders' Cup Distaff. Nobody has more runs this year in the 2022 racing season in the Breeders' Cup Distaff than Secret Oath. So far this year, 8 starts, 3 victories, 2 seconds, 2 thirds. She's banked $1.5 million. Not only winning the Kentucky Oaks, but facing the boys twice this year as well. She was 3rd in the Arkansas Derby. She was 4th in the Preakness Stakes. But being the leader of the 3-year-old filly division early on this year, she's sort of been passed a little bit by Nest. Nest has defeated her in the Coaching Club American Oaks, the Grade 1 Alabama, and then Society defeated her in the Grade 1 Cotillion in her most recent start. So Secret Oath, the Kentucky Oaks winner, she has arrived here at Keeneland Racecourse. Look for her to hit the track tomorrow early on for the Hall of Famer Dwayne Lucas, who's looking for his 21st victory in the Breeders' Cup.
If this place could talk, it would roar. It would say, "This is racing. This beating heart in the heart of horse country. Steady and strong beneath the roar. Reminding us why. For the love of the horse. For generations to come."
You called that touchdown. Saw that sack coming. Predicted the pizza tasted better than it looks.
And, of course, you knew the game's not over until it's over. So this NFL season, put your skills to the test with FanDuel's free games for a shot at $1 million in prizes. FanDuel, make every moment more.
TVG's free handicapping tools are at your fingertips. Access expert picks, both found on the app and at TVG.com. Find selections in either the Promotions header, under the More tab, or on the race page for select races. And follow your experts to get notified when new picks are available. Then use the bet ticket to play along. Check out TVG's expert picks, both on the app and at TVG.com.
Warfront. This son of Danzig ranks among the world's elite sires, ranked #1 by percentage of stakes winners, graded stakes winners, and Grade 1 winners. No stallion has a better strike rate. Warfront is the sire of over 100 lifetime stakes winners, including some of the sport's most talented runners both at home and abroad. In the auction ring, his progeny continue to command top dollar. Warfront, standing at Claiborne Farm.
We're back here on Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup, and for the men and women that are working at the barns here on Rice Road, there is a breakfast option that does start very early, as you can imagine, with the track opening at 6 a.m. The breakfast option behind me, this tent, does open up at 4 a.m. thanks to the friends at the Mint Gaming Hall. We'll take a look. You got some people that are already getting some coffee and getting some food here as training starts to wind down. All the food options are gone, as you can imagine, as we approach 10 o'clock Eastern time here, but there's some pastries, there's breakfast burritos, there's oatmeal in the mornings, water, sodas, there's coffee, everything that these men and women and these horsemen need back here on Rice Road. And Todd, as I mentioned, this is something that does open up very early, 4 a.m. for these men and women if they want to have some breakfast back here at Rice Road. I mentioned there's nothing here, but that's not because there wasn't a lot of food. 400 breakfast burritos. 400 have been mowed through earlier this morning, and another 600 breakfast sandwiches are going to be out here tomorrow, and it starts at 4 a.m. thanks to our friends at the Mint Gaming Hall. All right, now let's head on over to Michelle Yu.
Thanks, Joaquin. I'm joined right now by Breeders' Cup President and CEO Drew Fleming. Drew, the atmosphere right now is starting to get really tangible. What are your feelings right now?
Oh, it's so good to welcome all of our friends from all over the world. We've been planning this for many, many years, and it's just so great to see everybody again. I mean, what a better place on earth than Keeneland? It's majestic. The breakfast is great. The horses are magnificent. It's going to be an amazing week.
Now, yesterday we had the draw. I saw you there, but afterwards you had some other obligations.
Well, so this is the first time, actually in my son's life, that I was able to go trick-or-treating with him for a bit. Because I'm always on the road this time of year, and it's nice to be at home for once and take him trick-or-treating.
Tell me about your costume.
Well, he wanted to go as a dinosaur, and so I went as a Jurassic Park ranger.
I feel like you should have worn that costume here today, though.
Oh, no. It's the little things in life, and it was nice to share a little moment with him, but it's also nice to be out here as well.
Now, last time that we were here at Keeneland, it was COVID. How do you feel being here with a real, full-force Breeders' Cup?
Well, it was a decision we didn't want to make, but it was the right decision at the time. But we also felt, in fairness to the city of Lexington, the local hotels, the businesses, horse capital of the world, let's come back as soon as we can. And we're honoring that commitment to show the Breeders' Cup in its full glory. So we're really excited about that.
All right. I appreciate you joining the time.
No, it's awesome. Thank you guys so much. It's been a fun week.
Thank you, Drew. We're going to head over to Scott and Rishi now.
And we're back here in the chutes at Keeneland Racecourse looking at these Godolphin runners that have come out here to train. Modern Games coming just in front of us, the big, stout chestnut. Boy, the recent racing doesn't look like it's taken one thing out of him.
Well, I do believe, Scott, I said this earlier in the week, he thrives on the racing. The more racing he has, it seems the more he loves it. That certainly was the way his 2-year-old career developed, and it's certainly the way his 3-year-old career is looking. And even though he didn't have the best conditions last time at Ascot, I thought he ran a great race in defeat behind Bayside Boy, and I think he's going to take some stopping now in the mile.
And his attitude truly has changed. He came out here, he actually broke away from the pack of the Appleby Godolphin horses. They came out here and warmed up, and since he's come back around, he has really gotten on his toes. He has certainly looked phenomenal. What did you make, though, of his most recent run on Champions Day? He had the jump on the eventual winner. Obviously, Inspiral was so far back. Did he just not see the eventual winner in that Champions run?
I don't think so. I think if you look at the way the race was run from about half a mile out, William Buick is already just squeezing him along, because on that surface, that soft ground that he had to encounter, which isn't his favourite surface, he was just running probably half a stride quicker than he wanted to on those sort of conditions. But he stuck to it. He stuck to the task. His attitude is superb, and he really battled on well. Bayside Boy, yeah, he did come out and sort of blindside him on the far side, but I think, you know, Modern Games ran as well as he could in those conditions. On quicker conditions here at Keeneland, I think he'll take some stopping.
Yeah, it looks like they're going to head out in earnest out of the chute and get ready to warm up and put in their light training here this morning for their first trip out to the Keeneland racetrack. Rebels Romance actually surprisingly installed as the morning line favorite over his stablemate in here in Naval Crown. So what do you, or Nation's Pride, excuse me, Nation's Pride, the other Appleby runner. He's run some Group 1 races in Germany, but how does that form, that competition stack up to what the rest of these runners have seen?
Well, the last win in Germany was very good. He beat a horse called Samarco, who won the German Derby. And generally, that is a very strong European Group 1. Now, last year, there was a horse called Alpinista, who won quite a few German Group 1s. We probably underestimated her, and she ended up this season winning the Arc. So I think it's being wary of those German Group 1s. But Rebels Romance, former dirt horse, really, had the Belmont as a target last year. Here he is now over a mile and a half on turf. But Appleby happy to change tack whenever necessary.
We're going to show you Nation's Pride right now. This is the 3-year-old Teofilo colt. We saw Yabir win this race last year at Del Mar as a 3-year-old for Charlie Appleby. And he's done nothing wrong in his 3 starts in the United States. He was second behind Classic Causeway, who got away from him in the Grade 1 Belmont Derby, setting the pace. But, boy, it didn't take him long to figure out U.S. racing in his next 2 starts up in New York.
Yeah, funny enough, Scott, I backed this horse to win the Derby at Epsom when he was supplemented for the race Nation's Pride. And I think the configuration of Epsom Racecourse with its twists and turns didn't suit him. He prefers a much flatter surface, a much flatter track, and that's what he got certainly when he came out to the States, and his form has been pretty strong. I love the fact that when he's asked to quicken, he generally drops his shoulder, he quickens into the stride, and he's got a lovely attitude. I think that I'd have him a slight favourite over Rebels Romance in my book. I think he's got more substance to what he's achieved in his Group 1 wins or Grade 1 wins here in America, as opposed to what Rebels Romance has done. But both horses definitely have scope for better. That's the uncertainty. They can both improve.
And that's a scary proposition. We saw the year that Charlie Appleby Godolphin had last year, Sons of Dabawi. That was the theme. A little different this year. You still have Modern Games, part of that contingent. Space Blues, he's since gone off to Dallam Stud to stand in his next career. But do you see Appleby / Godolphin sitting on the same kind of Breeders' Cup coming into this year?
It's a tough one, because I think, Scott, that because of Charlie's outstanding record so far, 11 Breeders' Cup runners, 6 winners so far, that's quite a record. I get the feeling that those horses are going to be overbet this year. I think the value in those horses will probably just disappear. I can't imagine Charlie's going to keep that record and that percentage in strike rate up for as long as, you know, it'll even itself out eventually. But I think that the horses, the strength that he's brought over, it's the best of the European team as a team, no doubt about it. And he's got some very good chances. But I think there are a couple, like the favourite for the Juvenile Turf in Silver Knot, who maybe have perhaps they're too short in the betting, I'd say. You know, Modern Games, I think for me, he represents their best chance. I thought last year he was the best chance, and despite the shenanigans before the start of the race in the Juvenile Turf, he certainly proved a cut above everything else. I think in the conditions that he's got, the draw that he's got, I think that he's going to be the pick for me of the Appleby runners. I mean, all the way through, he's got Group 1 horses, no doubt about it. You know, Mischief Magic is a horse that, you know, I think probably has a little bit of improvement to find. It's disappointing that Mysterious Knight, who had won over here, isn't going to be lining up for him. But overall, a very strong team for Charlie Appleby. His record has been outstanding, not just obviously at the Breeders' Cup, but internationally. He's had a wonderful time of things, and he's on course to become champion trainer in the UK again. So Charlie Appleby continues to dominate as a world force in the world of racehorse trading, and no doubt his horses are going to play a big part on Friday and Saturday. Whether as big a part as the last year, I can't imagine he can continue to have success at the rate that he's done so far. But hey, he's produced some wonderful results so far.
Yeah, he's taken full advantage of the bloodstock that has been presented to him through the global operation of Sheikh Mohammed. Obviously, Godolphin. These horses being held up back here in the chute right now for the time being. So we're showing you these shots. They've yet to go out onto the main track for any training. In fact, there's not any of the horses that have left the chutes at this point. There's nobody out there just yet. So not sure exactly what's going on back here, Todd. There is no Godolphin representative near us that we can speak to. Charlie Appleby's not here just yet. So we're just trying to monitor what exactly is going on. And now that looks like they're making their way on and going the wrong way on the outside rail is what it looks like is going to be the approach with these Godolphin horses as they get set to train.
Okay, so about to come onto this turf course. I'd be curious, we're not going to really know, because unlike a race day where they would put up what the turf condition is, we're just going to kind of determine it by the way they're going over it. But with the amount of rain that we've had in the previous 72 hours, I imagine this turf course is definitely good, leaning towards yielding.
Yeah, I'd probably give it a good, maybe. We had a little wind yesterday, but yeah, there's not enough dry air around to dry it out. But it won't be a problem for these types of horses. They probably love it. Just get their toe in the ground a little bit.
I think the sunshine is supposed to start today too. We haven't had as much sun, even though it hasn't rained as much over the last couple days. I've got stars in my eyes looking at Modern Games. I mean, this horse was obviously so impressive up at Woodbine when we saw it. And I love hearing what Rishi had to say about him thriving on the racing. You can see that. I mean, look at his weight. Look at the muscle tone that he's still carrying. Keep in mind, this horse ran September 17th in the Woodbine Mile. He ran October 15th in the Queen Elizabeth at Ascot. Now he's here at Keeneland for the Breeders' Cup. Some horses, and it's much more common with colts, and this 3-year-old is an example of that. They're just so tough. You can do so much with them. You can train hard on them. You can keep feeding them. They'll keep eating everything, and they'll keep coming back in the mornings bigger, stronger, better. He looks like one of those that just enjoys his job, puts a lot into it, and is physically thriving right now.
He's run 6 times this year. He's been on an airplane for 4 of those starts, and he's been in a horse box or horse van for 2 of them. He's only run twice. But I'm with Rishi. He looks good. I loved him last year like Rishi did. Unfortunately, I think Rishi's win bet, along with everybody else's, didn't play out for those circumstances. That's a whole different story. But, I mean, like you said, he thrives on. This is a horse who Christina just mentioned. I mean, when you go from Goodwood to Woodbine to Ascot, there's a lot of plane ride crossing the Atlantic, and he just looks phenomenal. I think he's proven that he wasn't just a precocious 2-year-old. The fact he's carried his form and improved. He's a classic winner, and his form has really progressed into his 3-year-old year. This would be my pick as well out of all the Godolphin runners.
I think one thing I've noticed about the horses that Charlie Appleby brings to the U.S., and it's true of the juvenile who Rishi pointed out, Mysterious Knight, who's not coming for the Juvenile Turf. They're not always the kind of narrow, angular European types that you think of. They look a little bit more like an American horse. They carry a little bit more weight, carry a little bit more muscle, just a little bit stronger individuals that he puts on planes for these types of big trips.
Oh, don't forget, when he brings his juveniles over, they're not the best, usually. The classic runners are usually parked off to Dubai for the winter. These might be, what they consider top-class, slight second-string horses, the juveniles. But, yeah, nonetheless, very, very strong.
Another horse out of the Appleby yard is Rebel's Romance, the son of Dubawi, and looking to the Longines Breeders' Cup Turf.
Back-to-back wins, in fact, 4 consecutive wins for him, but back-to-back against Group 1 competition in Germany. And again, a little bit surprising, a lot of respect for those races in terms of the morning line that you're seeing with him, but he is 8 for 11 lifetime, and records like that very attractive to bettors, especially when you get in a circumstance like this in one of the turf races, looking for a hero, looking at a horse that has basically done nothing wrong in his career.
No, he's done nothing wrong, but I think, again, this underscores my point that I was just mentioning. This wouldn't be one of the top performers. I mean, he's competing in he wasn't a Grade 1 winner until he went to Germany. And historically, those German races, yeah, they're graded, but they're not as strong as some of the midsummer Grade 1s, you know, in France or England. I mean, you compare his form to Aidan O'Brien's Broom, who's been running the, you know, the Irish Champion, the Arc, the Hardwick, the Tattersall's Gold Cup. I mean, I know getting defeated, but those are much deeper, tougher races. So maybe a horse on the improve, but I think personally, probably up against it here.
When you look at his form versus the stablemate, Nation's Pride, who we're going to take a look at right now. He's a 3-year-old Nation's Pride, whereas Rebels Romance is a 4-year-old. But Nation's Pride, having come to the States already in his last 3 consecutive starts, his bankroll reflecting that. Already an earner of $1.4 million. Second in the Belmont Derby, Classic Causeway, able to steal that one on the front end. And then the back-to-back victories in the Saratoga Derby and the Jockey Club Derby.
Yeah, trying older horses for just the second time. He won a minor allowance race at Meydan this past February, but I like the fact that for European running, he has a little more tactical speed. He can lay a little closer than some.
When you look at the 2 previous Breeders' Cups held here at Keeneland, how did the Europeans take to this turf course and the configuration of it?
I'm trying to think off the top of my head.
Well, Order of Australia drew in, you know, from the
true.
far outside, and
that race looked wide open that year too, didn't it? I mean, the mile that year looked.
But there's not a hindrance in any way.
No. No.
You look at
There's not a hindrance at any racetrack in America anymore for any European.
Really?
I don't think so, because on face value, everyone would say 20 years ago, oh man, it's so hard for the Europeans to come to California. It's rock hard, it's sunny, it's a long ship. They love going there.
John Gosden talked a little bit about the differences in the stretch distances. Maybe Del Mar a little shorter, 919 feet, the stretch distance on the turf course at Del Mar, 990 here at Keeneland. You get a little bit more ground. Woodbine, to Gosden's point, one of the longest stretches that we have in North America. That's definitely that picture-perfect environment for them, but Keeneland kind of the sweet spot, hits right in the middle.
Trainer Steve Asmussen has been kind enough to speak with us all week long here on Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup, and he seems to be exuding confidence, I think, Michelle, you.
Steve Asmussen always exudes confidence, Todd. First of all, before we talk about your horses, you've been out here watching the Appleby horses. What are your thoughts?
I just love the Breeders' Cup, love this, the quality of horses that are gathered up for it. It's just going to be an unbelievably exciting week.
Okay, now I want to get to your horse. Let's talk about Jackie's Warrior. I would pick. I told you pick one. You didn't want to make a choice. Let's talk about Jackie's Warrior. What was your thoughts of his last work?
He just looks beautiful coming into the Breeders' Cup Sprint this year. He's just been such a special horse to us, the Robesons, and to the barn. Nothing could be more fitting than for him to go on to his stud career with a Breeders' Cup victory.
When you have a horse like that you know is leaving and it's meant so much to your barn and the people, do you like sit back there and kind of take pictures and mental memories to keep from him?
He's given us so much. He's given pictures and memories for a lifetime, and just love the shape that he's in and how beautiful he looks right now. And nothing would be better than him winning, but just very proud of the career he's put together.
I appreciate the time, Steve.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Steve Asmussen, not only out here training a plethora of Breeders' Cup horses, but taking the time to take in all the sights.
It's time to bet the race, and FanDuel Racing has entered the starting gate. Download the FanDuel Racing app, and you're off. It's super easy to use from the start. Make every moment more with tools to help you win on the inside. Watch out for great promos and easy deposits. And here comes fast payouts. It's super easy to use. It's fast payouts. It's super easy. There's no doubt about it. The best place to bet is FanDuel Racing.
New customers bet the Breeders' Cup and get up to $100 back if your horse doesn't win.
Sire Sensation Gunrunner is the sire of 6 first crop Grade 1 winners.
And he's going to win the hopeful Red Gold Zulu wins the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies, and Cyberknife has one that has the
Society is going to win the Cotillion, and Tisnow, they win the Met Parks Pennsylvania Derby.
early voting comes inside and wins it. He wins the Preakness.
Horse of the Year, Gunrunner, standing at 3 chimneys.
This is a Kentucky Thoroughbred. This is a Kentucky-built powerfoil industrial fan. Like a Thoroughbred, it too delivers unrivaled performance. And while they both run with purpose and pride, this one runs to keep your workforce feeling cool and comfortable. Powerfoil, the best-selling Big Fan in the world. BigFans.com. Exceptionally engineered.
At Calumet Farm, we're proud to offer proven stallions to fit every breeder's needs. With over 72 million in progeny winnings on dirt and turf, our diverse roster is producing the champions of today and tomorrow. Calumet Farm, a legacy reborn.
Trade Storm to win the Rico Woodbine Mile.
She's going to do it. Simple Verse has won the Ledger. Snakeneck Spear and Sheen Murphy get through and have won.
It's getting really tight. The star of the season, drawing line.
The purple cap. Kamiko the far side of him. Kamiko's won. The other midline. Mongostine has just won it with Mosse.
Ocean Road after going to Vegas. Ocean Road.
He was just put together like a machine, and he had a great mind. Everything about him was what you'd want.
Tis the Law pops the cork in the champagne. Tis the Law is going to win the first leg of the Triple Crown.
I've never seen him get tired.
Respect the law. Tis the law.
His structure is just perfect. His bone is perfect.
He's left the others behind. He's going to win the Run Happy Travers.
He's everything you would look for in a horse.
They're into the stretch, and it's Life is Good. Off the turn with a 2.5 length lead. Ginobili full out in second. On the inside, 8 Rings is third. They're coming past the 16th pole. It's Life is Good. And this colt is incredible. Life is Good. Won it by 6 lengths over Ginobili.
Life is Good was a dominating winner of the Big Ass Fans Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile last year at Del Mar. There were bigger worlds to conquer after that, and when he beat Nix Go, the eventual horse of the year in the Pegasus Cup, the stage was set for him to be the best horse in America. Then along came Flightline. Life is Good. Their connections had a choice. They could go back to the Big Ass Fans Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile, or they could test the distance limitations in the 1 1/4 Classic and take on Flightline. They chose the biggest obstacle. Life is Good. We've been watching him here on Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup, campaigning for WinStar Farm. Gabby Gaudette with Elliot Walden.
Well, one of the traditions here at WinStar Farm is to hang the saddle towels of Grade 1 winning stallions, and you can see Life is Good is up there. Looking forward to standing stud here at WinStar Farm. But the funny thing about the saddle towel is it's clean. Definitely not the case for American Revolution, but Life is Good, and his saddle towel in the Pegasus is definitely clean, and that just speaks to this horse's natural speed.
Yeah, he's a fast horse, Gabby. We, as you can see, we leave the dirt, we leave the saddle towels as authentic as they can be, and so you made a good point when you saw that the Pegasus and the Big Ass Fans Dirt Mile last year, both of them were very clean. The horse is extremely fast. That's one of his weapons, and he's been really excited to get him here at stud after this race Saturday.
How is the camp feeling in preparation for the Breeders' Cup Classic, especially after the works that we saw here?
Yeah, really good. You know, he galloped great this morning. He's worked super on Saturday. You know, he's such a consistent horse. You know, I've talked, Todd's told me, and Bob, he never has a bad day on the track. That's really kind of something that's really a benchmark of the exceptional horses, of at least the ones we've had. Justify was the same way. Never had a bad work, never had a bad day. And Life is Good is the same way. Every time he's worked over the last 2 years has been exceptional, and he goes out with great energy. I was talking to Amelia Green this morning, and she said that he's learned to stand. Bob's horses typically don't stand, so when he first came to Todd, you know, he didn't stand a whole lot. But she said he really loves to stand now. So she, like this morning, she backed him up and stood him out, and he just takes it all in. And for a horse that's as fast as he is, you know, to be able to stand there quietly, then you get him in a gallop and he's wanting to go, and he's always wanting to go.
He's very eager, but as you said, someone mentioned it earlier this week. He's like that all-star athlete in the morning. He's just exceptional in the morning and obviously in the afternoon as well. We know what makes him so special as a racehorse, but in your opinion, what's going to make him so special as a stallion?
His athleticism, his balance. You know, he has great qualities from Into Mischief and also Distorted Humor. Distorted Humor is an exceptional broodmare sire, and I think he puts into his horses what on the broodmare side what he did as a sire, and that's try, that's wanting to do it, and so Into Mischief gives him a double dose of that, because you see Into Mischief's all, they're so consistent, and so Life is Good's won 9 out of 11, and you know, I think his athleticism, his speed, and then you stand him up and look at him, and he's extremely well balanced, and those are great characteristics for a stallion.
To say the cliche, but he really does check all the boxes. Elliot, thank you so much for the time earlier with Tisnow, and more information on Life is Good. Good luck on Saturday.
Thank you. It's going to be a great race, and look forward to seeing it as a fan as well as an owner. So it's exciting.
All right, Life is Good, heading towards the Breeders' Cup Classic, and will make his way to WinStar Farm after that to stand stud.
WinStar has already made a commercial for Life is Good, and at the center of it is an all-star athlete. He is a star for the University of Kentucky men's basketball team, talking about Oscar Tshiebwe, who passed an opportunity to be a first-round selection in the NBA draft last year to come back to Kentucky, and at the center of his beliefs are his faith. And Elliot Walden is a big participant in the Racetrack Chaplaincy of America. Tonight is an outstanding event. They are nearly sold out. It is a night of faith, hope, and love featuring Oscar Tshiebwe as the guest speaker. I'll be emceeing the event, moving it along. Elliot Walden said, I have one request, Todd, as you host this event. I said, what's that, Elliot? He goes, I get to interview Oscar Tshiebwe. I'm like, no problem. Elliot has been a longtime fan of the UK men's basketball team. If you want more information on it, you can visit the Racetrack Chaplaincy of America online. That's rtcanational.org. Dinner will be at 5 o'clock. It's on site here in the chalet mentioned at Keeneland. But if you want to watch it online, going to be a number of great speakers there and some great moments highlighted by Oscar. That will start the live streaming at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Again, rtcanational.org.
Have you seen his ad? The Life is Good.
It's fun.
Oh,
it's so
phenomenal.
Fun. Yeah, no.
Phenomenal.
And he is a great speaker, and so I'm looking forward to finally meeting Oscar in person. Going to be a fun night. So many great events tied around the Breeders' Cup, and that's certainly one of them. All right, getting back here to breakfast at the Breeders' Cup, Joaquin Jaime.
Well, Todd, as all of us are getting ready to go up and have breakfast at the breakfast marquee, people like Humberto Gomez, who's been with Bob Baffert for 5 years, still doing the hard work at the barns, because after training, things get dirty, things got to get cleaned. So we're doing chores right now. Humberto, what's the process here? What are you cleaning?
Yeah, we're cleaning the martingales and the bridles. We have to make sure we put some moisturize so it doesn't break. And the most important thing is just to clean everything and disinfect it, because it's very important when this part of the bead goes inside the mouth, the horses, it has to be disinfected. Just make sure there's no contamination or anything. And mostly we do this, we make sure that this is all right, because it's for safety, for the horse and for us as well.
As we're winding things down, are we getting close to feed time for all your Breeders' Cup horses here?
Yeah, around 10 o'clock. The guys are just finishing the cleaning and preparing their meals. And yeah, basically in like an hour they're going to be having breakfast.
All right, Humberto, we appreciate the time. Sorry, we'll let you get back to work. You can blame Bob when Bob gets into town then.
I know this is not my favorite part, but I have to do it just to be safe.
All right, Todd, I'll send it back to you.
My dad made us clean tack all the time.
Really?
Yeah, you'd rake the shed row and clean the tack.
Everyone hates that job, but it might be the single most important job in the barn from a safety standpoint, because that's the lifeline for an exercise, right? You got to clean that tack. You got to keep it nice and moisturized.
Like all those keepers.
All the buckles and that. Yeah.
Simon, you wanted to bring up a point about a special guest we're going to have on the show tomorrow.
Yeah, Frankie Dettori going to be in town. He had some breaking news earlier this week. We're going to get to see him on a regular basis here in the United States. He's planning to ride at Gulfstream Park it's for some months, I think, but start off at Santa Anita December 26th, an exclusive contract to ride with the first racetracks here. So we're looking forward to it. And I think it's interesting that, at the twilight of his career, maybe he's looking to just wrap it up here in the U.S.
Frankie goes to Hollywood, they say.
Yeah.
Oh, I like it. Relax. Don't do it.
When you want to Santa Anita to come to it.
Well, we're happy that you've joined us for Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup. Looking forward to tomorrow's show. Rejoin us at 7 a.m. Eastern Time. It's Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup, brought to you by WinStar Farm and Keeneland here on FanDuel TV. Way to go, Gabby.